Oh, what? Any plans for this evening? Perhaps a game night?
Game over, man. Game over.
Shut up. Play the game. Play it from your heart. 26 years ago, we started playing a little game. Now, we're all gonna sit down, gonna finish it.
And may the odds be ever in your way.
Here we go.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Dice Camera Action. No, that's not the name of the podcast. I might keep that in. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Dice Camera Action, a mashup podcast about board games and movies where cardboard meets the silver screen. Each episode, we review a movie. We review a game. I'm really messing this up. We review a game. And then if you're a cinephile, you could stick around to hear about a conversation about a movie with a similar theme. We're starting off great on this podcast. So you've already heard a couple of voices laughing. I'll introduce those people. So Chris Preston, regular listeners to the show are familiar with Chris. I do want to say, I think this is the first time you've been on since you started your own podcast, the Oak and Onion podcast. So I wanted to say congratulations on that. I've been listening to every episode and chirping you guys as much as possible online when I have opportunities. So yeah, congrats on that. I've really enjoyed it. You guys have done a really good job there with that. So if you guys like board game podcasts and want more content, definitely check out the Oak and Onion podcast.
And if you just like listening to Matt talk, check out episode 5 of our podcast where he was a guest on our longest episode yet.
Through no fault of my own. That was a Star Wars special, so I had a lot of fun with that.
Yeah, we had a blast.
For sure. And the other voice that you've heard laughing in the background there is a special guest who is one half of Durdle Games with his partner, Jason Hager. Durdle Games is a duo who started designing games during the pandemic. Today, they have multiple games out in the wild, including Fuego, a fiery team-based trick-taking game, Rowdy Partners, another trick-taking game about tag team wrestling, recently released by Capstone Games. And what they're most known for is their work with Restoration Games, having contributed in no small way to Unmatched Adventures with Tales to Amaze and the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Darren, Reckner, welcome to Dice Camera Action. I'm super excited to have you on. Now that we've heard a little bit about your game designing, maybe tell us a little bit more about yourself, and if there's anything important I missed about Durdle Games that you want to mention, go ahead and you can talk about some of that stuff as well. You can exclude Super Collider because we'll get to that in a little bit.
We'll get to that. Okay. Hello, everybody. I'm Darren Reckner. Like you said, I was one half of Durdle Games. I designed with a co-designer, and we work together as a business, essentially. We have about a half dozen-ish games in the wild. We have another half dozen-ish in the pipe that'll be coming out in the next 12 months or so. And we like to design things that we think are interesting. So we haven't really pigeonholed ourselves into a specific genre or anything yet. I mean, even what Matt mentioned was 2 trick-taking games and 2 games for the Unmatched series. We also have 2 logic and deduction games. We have a Roll and Write in the way. We have another cooperative game on the way. So we like to dabble everywhere, and we have a good time doing it. So we've been doing it since like you said, since during the pandemic, and we're going to keep doing it because we think it's fun, and people keep buying them for some reason. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's an indication of the quality of the work. So congratulations on the early success in your design career. I'm sure it's just the tip of the iceberg. On this episode, just to kind of line up what we're going to be doing some shout outs. So we're going to talk about some games, movies, maybe some other stuff that we've been up to. Then we're going to review Jekyll&Hyde, the trick-taking game, as well as Jekyll&Hyde versus Scotland Yard, which are 2 different trick-taking games. They're kind of, one is a sequel to the other. We'll get into all that. And kind of probably the reason this specific podcast came to be in the first place was I just really wanted to talk about the movie Obsession, because it was a huge, massive hit, and I went in with high expectations, and the movie met my expectations for a bunch of different reasons that we'll get into. And it's just really an interesting movie with a very interesting background. So I just wanted to talk about. Just wanted to talk about it and chat about it. So I just started thinking about what games would make sense. And for whatever reason, I just thought Jekyll and Hyde, kind of multiple personalities, evil taking over. There's a bunch of different ways you could kind of frame it to make it work, but that's kind of what I came up with. So I just kind of put it out there to the crew to see who might be interested. And Chris, you kind of raised your hand, and I guess you're familiar with these games. Have you played a lot of these games? Like, these are brand new to me.
We had played the first one, Jekyll versus Hyde, the competitive version, at a convention 3 years ago, I think it was. It was 23. And really liked it. And then we tried the cooperative one, Jekyll and Hyde versus Scotland Yard, last fall at a convention. And then, since I was going to be on the podcast, we were at Barnes & Noble, and they had a copy of the cooperative one versus Scotland Yard, and we picked it up and have played it a handful of times over the past couple of weeks. So
very cool. And obviously we've both seen Obsession, or we've all seen Obsession. Did you guys get to see it more than once?
Unfortunately, no. So
I was sure it was going to be on digital by the time we recorded this. Like, we set this up, Chris and I set this up weeks and weeks and weeks ago. And then Darren, you came on board like maybe a couple of weeks ago. And I was sure that it was going to be on digital by now. But it just keeps making money at the box office, which we'll talk about again. Sorry, Darren, I cut you off there. Go ahead.
No. Unfortunately, I only got to see the movie one time, and after I saw it, I was like, I probably need to watch this another time, because, as we'll talk about, when you get to the second half of the movie, it recontextualizes the first half of the movie, and then you want to see it again.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so we'll get into all that. So yeah, I'm just really excited about this movie, and basically where horror is as a genre in general right now is pretty exciting. So I'm excited to see what happens next, because I think this might be a kind of fork in the road for Hollywood and for the movie industry and for horror as a genre in general. So I guess we'll see. We'll see what happens, and we'll dive into all of that a little bit more down the road here in the podcast. So before we do, just a quick word from Board Game Bliss. I want to take a quick moment to shout out our sponsor, BoardGameBliss.com, which is honestly where I've been buying games for years. This isn't some random ad read. They're literally the only people I reached out to because I already love what they do, and I was relieved when they said yes so I could be fully genuine when endorsing them. They've got a huge inventory of games and are always super competitive price-wise, which is important to me. At Board Game Bliss, we believe in the magic of play. Board games spark joy, forge connections, and create unbelievable moments. We source exceptional titles from around the globe, so your table always has something exciting to offer. Whether you're just starting out or you're a seasoned pro, there's always a new favorite waiting to be found. Go to BoardGameBliss.com and find out why they're my personal favorite place to buy board games. All right, so before we get into all of that, I have a little bit of a surprise game here that we're going to play. So we're going to play a trivia game.
Oh, no. We're going to be exposed.
Oh, no. That's right. It's funny, as I was like, Darren and I, outside of a couple of conversations on Instagram, just setting this up, don't really know each other. So as I'm like preparing this like trivia game, I'm like, I have no idea if I have like a 20-something dude that's coming on, or a 60-something dude that's coming on. So like I have some older movies here, some newer movies, like,
right in the middle.
I mean, right in the middle. Perfect. Perfect. Just like I planned.
Yeah.
I think we're all pretty much 40-something, so that should
late 30s, early
40s. Yeah, I'm 41 now, but I every time somebody asks my age, I say, I'm late 30s, early 40s.
Hanging on to that late 30s by a thread.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And then like forever, I was saying mid to late 30s. But yeah, okay, so let's get into it. I'm going to basically either give you a quote or a trivia question. And the theme here, it goes along with the theme of our podcast. So it's all going to be movies that either have like multiple personalities or shifting personalities for whatever reason, or or like a be careful what you wish for theme, or a wish gone wrong kind of theme. Okay. So that is sort of the theme of these. All of the movies will fall into those categories. Okay. So, Chris, let's go to you first. Okay. So this is a quote from a movie, and if you don't get it, Darren will have a chance to steal. So if you get it with your first hint, you will get 2 points. And then if it's a steal, the stealing person will get 1 point for the steal. Okay. So, Chris, the quote is, his name is Robert Paulson. Darren knows it already. Darren knows it already. I can tell.
I feel like I
Now
should
the
know it
pressure's
because
on.
it sounds so familiar, but I can't place it right off the bat.
Okay. Do you have a guess, or are you giving it to Darren?
No, go for it, Darren.
I was the prime demographic for this film when it came out because I was in college, and I can't tell you how many long hours were spent talking about this, but that is from Fight Club.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
2 points for Darren.
I saw that once, and it's been like 25 years ago. So I knew I recognized the name, but
Robert Paulson, played by Meatloaf.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, Bob.
Yep.
Yep. Okay. So Darren, it's over to you, and your quote is phenomenal cosmic powers, itty bitty living space.
Oh, that's the genie from Aladdin, voiced by the legendary Robin Williams.
You nailed it. Yeah. I thought I was going with 2 super easy ones to start, where you both had like, an easy one that you could knock off and get a little confidence, but that backfired a little bit. Sorry, Chris.
Yeah. No, you're good. That's on me.
Okay. So here's one for Chris. You ready?
Yep.
Somebody stop me. I could do an actual impersonation, which would probably completely give it away. Somebody stop me.
Thinking it sounds like Jim Carrey in my head.
Okay.
The way I'm hearing it. But it gives me 2 options, either The Mask or Liar Liar. I'm going to go with The Mask.
Nailed it.
Good
You
pick.
got it.
Good pick.
Somebody stop me. All right. So 2 points for Chris.
Hey, I don't get skunked. There we go. Moral victory.
Okay, Darren, this one was a little bit tougher, so I put in 2 quotes. Okay. So the first quote is, holy shit, this is so cool. They are going to believe we exist now, right? Holy shit, this is so cool. They're going to believe we exist now, right? And then the second quote is, that wasn't me. That was Patricia.
I think you've got me on this one. I'm trying to think what would be something that would be, they would think they're imaginary, but they're not imaginary. I don't think I get this one. All right.
Okay, Chris,
No.
do you have an idea or something to throw out there? Holy shit, this is so cool. They're going to believe we exist now, right? And then the second quote is, that wasn't me. That was Patricia.
Must not ringing a bell for me either.
Okay. So no points awarded, but I'll throw out another hint here. Darren, you were saying like people being imaginary, not necessarily. Remember the theme of the types of movies, right? Like multiple personalities or changing personalities. And then somebody says, they're going to believe we exist now, right? And then the person says something to the character, and the character says, no, that wasn't me. That was Patricia.
I mean, it's not multiplicity.
No.
Is it like Drop Dead Fred or something? Or that was imaginary.
No,
friend.
so it's not an It's not has nothing to do with imaginary people. It has to do with split personalities, multiple people being one person.
Okay.
I mean, is it Split?
It is Split, yeah.
Oh, damn, man.
Split.
It's Split, yeah. So the
I
person
still need to
says,
watch
holy shit,
that.
this is so cool. They're going to believe we exist now, right? Like, because they didn't believe the person, they believe the person was faking it or whatever, potentially. And then one of my favorite lines from Split is, and my wife and I use this all the time, when like we get accused of like, did you not change the toilet roll or whatever? We always, no, that wasn't me. That was Patricia.
That's
For
good.
some reason, that line, that line made us laugh, and it's just a mainstay in our household now.
That's
Okay,
good.
so it is Chris's turn, I believe.
Yes.
Okay, so this is not a quote. This is a kind of just a trivia question. So the crystal ball juggling villain had to have multiple modesty adjustments to his wardrobe due to the fact that this was a kids movie.
Yep.
You're both giggling, so
He definitely did.
Yeah. It was David Bowie.
yes.
Definitely did.
I'm trying to remember the character's name.
You don't need the character's name, you need the movie.
Oh, I need the movie. Okay. It's I always get the two movies mixed up in my head. It's Dark Crystal, right?
It's the other one.
The other one.
Oh,
The other
dang
one.
it. I don't know why, but I can.
What-
Those movies are like the same thing in my mind, and I
What's
always
the other
get
one,
mixed
Darren?
up.
It is Labyrinth. So
Labyrinth it
Jim
is,
Henson
yeah.
Workshop said, let's make a kids movie and let's make that villain as uncomfortably sexy as possible.
Yes. Let's put David Bowie
Yeah.
in there. Trivia note, Caitlin likes to talk about this. Caitlin being my wife, for those of you that don't know. He could not figure out how to juggle that crystal ball, and there's behind the scenes footage of how awkward it was for like hands to come up under him doing it, and he's like, you know, like holding his arms back, and it's super funny and awkward looking. And so there's a funny trivia note.
That's interesting because
yeah.
for that
I've
movie.
seen that movie a bunch and I never noticed anything awkward about it.
It's
But,
saved.
The behind the scenes video I've seen it's pretty obvious and it's really funny.
Editing is the real movie magic.
Absolutely.
yeah, and like to go along with the rest of that movie, practical effects, right?
Yep.
Just killing it with practical effects. Okay, Darren, this one's for you.
Yep.
So 2 quotes again. Because again, this one I think was a little bit tougher. So here they are. Look at that subtle off-white coloring, the tasteful thickness of it.
Yep.
Oh my God, it even has a watermark. I feel like you have it already.
No, is there more? Keep going.
Okay, so the second one is picked them up at the printer yesterday. Good coloring. That's bone. And the lettering is something called Cillian Grail.
I think the lettering was actually just the name they made up for the movie, but the movie was American Psycho. That was Patrick Bateman, played by
You got it.
played by Batman.
Christian
Played
Bale.
by Batman.
Christian
Yeah.
Bale. Yeah, played by Batman, exactly. Yeah. Did you have that one ready to go, Chris, to steal or?
No,
No.
Again, I saw that once in college, like 20 years ago. So
Okay.
I remember random bits of the movie, but not quotes for sure.
Gotcha. Yeah, for some reason the business card stuff has always stuck out to me as being hilariously
Yeah.
weird
Yeah,
in that
because
movie, and I
he's
loved
so
it.
intense about it, but it's such a banal subject matter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he gets so mad when somebody has a cooler business card than him.
And they all look the same.
Absolutely.
From what I remember, the whole movie was just wild.
Mhm.
Oh yeah,
Definitely
it's a great one. Okay, here's one for you, Chris.
Okay.
The quote is, "Parting your soup is not a miracle. Parting your soup is not a miracle."
Except Bruce Almighty.
Got it. All
Hey,
right.
That's a good one.
2
I
points
may
for
not know
Chris.
much, but apparently I know my Jim
Yeah.
Carrey.
That's right.
I don't know what that says about me, but
Or about Jim Carrey's role choices.
I mean,
well, you know.
there was a decade where Jim Carrey was in everything and smashing all the box offices. So a lot of
Mhm.
references.
Yeah. He had that one year where it was Ace Ventura, The Mask, and Dumb and Dumber all came out in the same year.
Yep.
That's crazy.
That's when
And,
comedies were big.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And like the first 2, I might be getting the details slightly wrong here, so don't quote me on exactly this, but it's something along the lines of the first 2 had come out and he had already been cast in the third one. And I forget what the third one was. It might have been The Mask, or no, it was Dumb and Dumber. I think Dumb and Dumber was the third one to come out that year. And the other 2 movies had already come out, and I think they were just starting to shoot. And basically, Jim Carrey or Jim Carrey's agent said, like, hang on a second here. Like, Jim Carrey all of a sudden is a massive, massive draw, and he needs to get paid more for this movie because he is going to make you guys so much money based on so basically they renegotiated, and Jim Carrey got paid a ton more money for Dumb and Dumber, and it was renegotiated at the last second. So again, don't quote me on the exact details, but it was something along those lines.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Imagine having those 3 hits, like one person being the lead of those 3 hits in 1 year.
Yep.
Wild. And I was like
Whoever
12 years old at the time,
whoever was picking his scripts, maybe he was picking his scripts. I mean, I don't know, but who's ever giving him scripts, hopefully they got their commission, they earned it.
yes, for sure. Okay, this one is for you, Darren. A boy's best friend is his mother.
I'm gonna feel silly when we find out what this is, because I feel like I should know this. It's not Forrest Gump. I'll have to pass. I can't get this one.
Chris, do we have a steal? This is your chance to get back in it. You tie it here. If you steal it, a boy's best friend is his mother.
I don't know if it's right, but the only thing I can think of is Psycho.
Psycho it is.
Yeah.
Very nice. Yeah, because which I think Patrick Bateman was partially named after this character, right?
Yep.
Norman Bates, but yeah, he pretends to be his mother half the time. He literally a split personality. Okay, Chris, back to you.
All right.
The pen is royal blue. The pen is blue. The pen is blue.
I have no clue. I'm not gonna waste time. Nothing.
The pen is royal blue. The pen is blue. The pen is blue. Obviously, I'm not reading it as a quote. I'm just reading the words here. But Darren, do you have a steal?
That sounds like 2 people talking to each other. No, I don't have a steal there.
Okay, this is a Wish Gone Wrong movie.
Okay.
Where the person is trying to say the pen is red.
Oh, is it Liar Liar?
But he's incapable of lying.
Okay.
The pen is ree. The pen is ree. The pen is royal blue.
Hey, I just want to say I predicted that was going to be one of the answers.
I just need to go through
every
question. Just I immediately need to go through my brain catalog of Jim Carrey movies.
We're done with Jim Carrey now. It's so funny because I was Googling and looking at lists and putting this together, and I'm like, oh yeah, Liar Liar, wish fulfillment gone wrong, perfect. And then I'm like, oh, multiple personalities are changed. Oh, Mask, yeah, perfect. And then I finished the list and I'm looking at it, I'm going, oh my god, there's 3 Jim Carrey movies on this list.
I mean, he played 2 characters in Sonic the Hedgehog 3. I don't know if anybody here saw that.
I have not
He played
seen
Robotnik,
those.
and he played Robotnik's dad. Distinctly different personalities.
That could have worked, yeah, for sure. Okay, so I think we're at Darren here.
Yep.
Okay, here it is. So this is the 2 characters. One person says the first line, and then the second person responds. And there are 2 of those. Okay, because I think this is a slightly tougher one. So I think between these 2, maybe we'll get it. Okay, so the first one. So I can't sleep with my wife and I can't sleep with other women. What the hell is that? And then the response is marriage. I can't sleep with my wife and I can't sleep with other women. What the heck is that? Marriage is what it is. The second person responds. And then the second one is the first person says, is it weird that I miss your penis? And then the second person responds, oh, come on. It would be weird if you didn't.
Wild.
And these sound super weird. And once you know the context, or once the people know the context, it'll make more sense.
This feels like a body swap kind of movie. That's what it feels like. I'm trying to think of a movie where a male and a female protagonist swap identities. It's definitely not Freaky Friday.
I'll just say you're on the right track.
Yeah.
You're not completely right, but you're very much on the right track.
It's definitely, I think there's 1 or 2 kids movies where that's kind of body swap happens, but it's definitely not that.
Yeah, but there's talk of sleeping together and penises here, so this is not a kids one for sure.
Yeah.
Fairly recent too.
Is it? Okay.
Not like last year, but fairly recent.
I feel like I've seen this. I'll have to pass on.
Do you
this
have a
one.
guess lined up, Chris?
I don't.
You don't either. Okay.
No.
So no points will be awarded, but I'll give another hint. It's with Jason Bateman and Ryan Reynolds. I feel like there's a whole bunch of these kinds of movies, not body swap movies, but this type of comedy that all kind of blend together, that even the titles are kind of like, whether it's like This Is 40 or I can't even think of others because I just feel like they're fairly forgettable. But I watched this one fairly recently, and so it stuck out to me. It's called The Change Up, where basically Jason Bateman, who is a full-fledged family man with kids and everything, and his best friend, I believe, played by Ryan Reynolds, who's like a ladies' man and kind of has like a whole bunch of ladies on the go and whatnot. They changed bodies. So that's why he said, I can't sleep with my wife and I can't sleep with other women. What the heck is that? And then Bateman's response is, that's marriage, dude.
I think I remember
and
that.
then that's why he says, is it weird if I miss your penis? And then the other guy says, oh, come on, it would be weird if you didn't.
I think I remember that from like the movie standee outside of the theaters. Like that's
Yeah,
what I think I
maybe.
remember that from. But yeah, that was a while ago. That would have been a decade at least.
So we have a tie here, guys. It's
wow.
6-6, and I'm out of questions. So we're just gonna have to leave it there, I guess. Or do you guys want to like rock paper scissors over it?
We'll say well met, Christopher.
Yeah. Well,
okay
good
with
job.
that.
The big comeback by Chris there.
Yep.
Good job. The Jim Carrey movies saved you.
Yeah. Because I blew a softball with the labyrinth, clearly.
Yeah. And then what was the first one too? The first one I thought was
The Fight Club.
Oh,
Fight
my
Club.
name is Robert Paulson. Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
like, these will be softballs. These will be easy for the first two, but yeah.
Should have been.
You don't know what you don't know, I guess.
Yeah.
All right. Let's get into our shoutouts.
Stop shouting. I'm not deaf.
I love that bumper. It gets me every time. All right. So this is part of the episode where we just kind of chat about some of the stuff that we've been playing and or watching. Darren, let's hear from you. We'll have you start us off with your first shoutout.
Sure. So a game I've been playing quite a bit recently is actually Wondrous Creatures.
Ooh.
So it's by Bad Comet, I believe is the publisher. I saw it at a local game shop. Thought it was neat. I picked it up. I played it with my wife now a half dozen times, and then the last 3 weeks or so, I've introduced it to 2 other people, and they're now very intense into it as well. It's on Board Game Arena if you want to get some extra games in there. It is a worker placement game, and your workers are creatures. They're 2 hexes long, and you'll put your workers onto this board, and it'll get you resources or cards or eggs. And then as you collect those resources, you cash them in for these like mashup creatures that are not Pokemon, but not dissimilar from Pokemon. And you essentially build a tableau of these 5 different styles of cards. So point scoring cards, instant effects, re-energizing cards that use energy, things like that. And it has a lot of fun little mechanisms worked into it. If you're a fan of moderately crunchy worker placement games where like the skill ceiling is probably pretty high on it.
Cool. Yeah, it looks neat. Chris, sounds like you've played it. Do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, it's a great game. We played it at Tantrum Con last year, and then I picked a copy of it up at BGG Con last May, and we don't play it as much as we should, but yeah, it's a great game. It's one for us that like it has similar vibes to Everdell kind of in the worker placement tableau building, but in my opinion is a much better game personally. I think
Interesting.
Everdell
Does it have
was
squishy
fine for
berries
us.
though?
It does not.
Yeah,
It does have eggs.
That's a
There's
mark
lot of
against
eggs.
it.
But it
Okay.
has
Okay.
one of your 3 creatures has a magnet in it, and you have a clan leader that once you accomplish a goal will come into play and give that specific creature some sort of ongoing rule breaking ability. And it's got a magnet in it, and they magnetize on each other. And
What?
It's super cool.
I'm looking
got
at the
way too excited
pictures.
about that.
You have my attention, that's for sure.
Yeah, super cool.
Yep.
I'm looking at the pictures on BGG, and there's all these like super cute little like meeples, like
Yes.
colored meeples. Are all
Mhm.
those included in the base game?
Most of them. There is an expansion with more beasts.
Right, but it's not a deluxe.
There is a premium
It's not a
bits box.
deluxeified thing.
There's a premium
Okay.
bits
Yeah.
box. I have the premium bits box, and I cannot remember what is standard and what is premium bits. So
Yeah,
Okay.
so there's trophies you're placing on the board, and the upgrades, those are metal. The energy pieces you can use on the cards that Darren mentioned that you can re-energize, those are wood and upgraded.
and the nets.
And I think, and the nets are wooden. And I want to say were the eggs cardboard in the original, or were they?
I don't think so, but there's a bunch of
Okay.
there's scoring tokens and like gear tokens and
Yeah.
like the tokens that let you set up the eggs on the board. So I think all those become wood when you get the upgrade.
Yeah. And it's not crazy expensive for the amount of upgrade bits you get.
Yeah, it doesn't. It has there's a neat cadence to the game because as you learn it, you start. It's a bit like Everdell in the sense that you started your game. It's like real simple. I just put my thing on the board. I get a couple resources. That's my whole turn. When you get later in the game and you've built out your tableau and maybe you're advanced on some tracks and stuff, like you'll do one thing and you'll trigger all these different effects as the game goes on. You try to optimize for that. So like if that scratches that part, if you have a part of your brain that needs that scratched, like this will absolutely scratch.
Yeah, absolutely. They do have a new expansion coming to crowdfunding
soon.
Really soon. Yeah, I don't remember what the date is, and I don't know when this is going to release, but I think they'll probably, if Bad Comet does what they've done in the past with expansions, they'll have the base game and all the upgrades. I don't know that for sure, but in the past they have done that with expansion content on crowdfunding. So keep an eye on that if that sounds like something you want to back.
Cool. And then like the shared map that I see in the center, is there like is there a lot of interaction happening there between the players? Or is it just kind of a standard worker placement thing?
I mean, there's the blocking, obviously.
Sure.
There are some spots on the map you cannot go to. There are some spots that cost extra resources because it's more, I think the mountains, they're more difficult terrain.
Mhm.
So it can get really tight if everybody's trying to go for the same stuff.
Yep, right.
And you have 3 creatures that you're placing, and then there's a reset turn. I forget exactly what they call it, where you pull them all back. So that is one of the things that Darren mentioned cadence-wise, that the timing of that can be really crucial for your benefit, but also for preventing someone else from having a really powerful turn at times. So there, it's not going to be like an Ameritrash game where there's just a ton of interaction. But for a worker placement Euro, there is some interaction there, and
It matters. Yeah,
there's collective goals you're racing towards, and the sooner you get them, the more points you get. And depending on player count, only so many spots on the goals can be claimed. So there's another interactive like race to claim.
Cool. Yeah, it sounds
there.
like something I'd be interested in for sure. I'll have to check it out. All right, Chris, you got a game for us?
I do. I'm gonna shout out Cozy Stickerville.
Yeah, cool.
This is something that Joel's talked a decent bit about on our podcast, and we recently did a segment on 3-2-1 Summer, and the one was one game we want to play this summer. And so our youngest is at grandma's house for a couple weeks, and we've been playing it with our 2 older kids who are 12 and 15. And our 15-year-old really didn't want to try it. But like halfway through the first year, I was like, "Are you enjoying this?" He's like, "Yeah, this is great." And so like the next night he was like, "Are we playing that again?" I was like, "Yes." So we're only 3 years in. So we've got 7 years left because it's 10 years. And basically, if you don't know Cozy Stickerville, it is a cooperative. If you're playing multiplayer, it can be just a solo experience where you start with a base board that is empty and there's a grid on it, and you've got a huge book of stickers and a storybook, and you're basically playing through 10 scenarios where you're building out your village. And the interesting thing is there's no winning or losing the game. So I've heard some people say it's not really a game, it's more of an activity, which if you want to claim that, go for it. I think either are accurate, but depending on the decisions you make throughout the game, there may be positive effects and there may be negative effects, and you may make your village go hungry and start to make people angry. And I'm not saying we did that, but I'm not saying we didn't do that. Because it happened real fast. And so it's super cool. There's 12 cards in each of the years, and each year has a different deck of 12 cards. And so basically you flip up a card, you read it. Some of them just give you a choice that'll trigger an effect. Some of them stay on the table that give you actions that you can take. And then you trigger one card and then you choose an action. And those actions can be reading a passage that's listed on the board. It can be triggering an action on one of the cards, which is solving some sort of puzzle, reading through a storyline, building pieces of your village like the town hall or the school or a playground. Or one we have right now that nobody's touched yet is one of us could run for mayor of the village, get into politics
I did that
somehow.
one.
So it's just,
I followed that path. It has some twists and turns in there.
Oh, I'm sure.
Are you the mayor of Cozy Stickerville now, Darren?
Oh, that's just the beginning.
That's just the beginning.
Just the beginning.
I think it's great too, though. Like reading the opening passage, basically, like it's this super defeating letter from Father is his name, basically saying like, "Here's some land, you're gonna mess it up, but good luck anyway." And so we keep joking about we've got to make the right decisions so we don't disappoint Father. So, that's great.
Got to keep Father happy.
Yeah. Have you played that one, Matt?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
When I went to Canada Plays, I went by the booth and they gave me an envelope with a sort of self-contained side quest or side thing that kind of is separate from the main game altogether. But I think it's like somewhat related and obviously has the same systems and stuff. So you can just play through this like little mini campaign, I guess.
Well, that's cool.
And I haven't pulled it out yet, but it's something I might do with Remy, my 6-year-old. I think he would really enjoy that. It sounds really cute, and it sounds like something he would like. Yeah.
They did early copies of it at PAX Unplugged in Philadelphia, and I saw the name of it while I was there, and I didn't ask any questions. I just handed him money and walked away with a box.
Nice.
Because I knew that my partner, my wife, would just love the idea of it, and we played it and we loved it. And you can play the campaign through twice. And I will tell you that even after 2 campaign playthroughs, there was still content in the game that we did not get to explore. So
that's good. That's good because the board's double-sided, and so you choose what side of the board you play with the first time.
Yeah. So don't feel like you're missing out when you're playing. Like chase the thing that interests you, and then when you play the second time, maybe chase the other thing.
That's cool. That's good to know. The interesting thing, Matt, and I think you'll appreciate this, Darren. You know, we just met like 20 minutes ago, so
best friends.
But it's designed by Corey Koenigsegg. Is that how you say his last name? Who is known for all the Fantasy Flight Star Wars designs, right? Like he did Star Wars Outer Rim, and then his company has done the Mandalorian Adventures. And this is one of his games that Unexpected Games, his company, put out. And I think it's wild because everything I've played from him is like, you know, this big Star Wars space adventure. And then here's this just like chill sticker activity game. It just seems very, very different from what I've seen from him in the past.
I think every
he
designer,
likes to dabble, just like Darren.
I think every designer just has like that thing on the back burner that, you know, they're like, here's an idea, it's on the back burner, I get to it when I get to it, and then eventually it just becomes like a critical mass, and it's like, now it's the thing, like I finally get to do the thing. So I'd be interested to know how long that was like percolating with them when they made that game.
Well, in a legacy campaign game like that, like that's no small, simple feat to figure out how all these passages interconnect. And I mean, there's some ongoing storylines that are interwoven even just through the first 3 years. So like
years,
you know, that had to have taken some time.
Very cool. So that's Cozy Stickerville. I'm gonna try that little side campaign thing with Remy, I think. And if he digs it, then maybe we'll look at buying the actual game. Cooperative campaign legacy stuff is not really my jam, but if it's an activity or a thing that I could do with my kids, then that changes things a little bit. Might have to check it out. All right, so the game I want to chat about is Oddland by Allplay.
Nice.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys have played this one. I just picked it up last weekend and have played 3 times since with my kids. And it's a really cool little game. It came onto my radar because I was listening to the Fun Problems podcast. Darren, as a game designer, you might be familiar, but Peter C. Hayward had mentioned that I guess they were talking about or landed on talking about Cascadia, and he had mentioned that Oddland is the better Cascadia, and we are huge Cascadia fans here in the house. So much so, actually, that anytime we make quesadillas, they're not called quesadillas anymore. For some reason, at some point, probably a couple of years ago, when my kids were like 4 and like 7, somebody called a quesadilla a Cascadia. And then, of course, my wife and I did not correct them. And we henceforth called quesadillas Cascadias. But anyways, we're big fans of Cascadia. And when I heard that this little all-play game was the better Cascadia, that was similar but with a shared map instead of like working on your own little map, that immediately piqued my interest because, as you guys all know, I prefer a game with a little bit more little bit more player interaction. And I love Cascadia because it's still a really cool puzzle. It's very cozy. It's very, chill. You can chat in between turns and it's not very long. So it's like, I still was a huge fan of that game. But I wanted to check out this other one, Oddland. So what Oddland is, if you picture Cascadia, most people will be familiar with that game. Instead of choosing a map piece and an animal piece, basically everybody has one copy of all of the animals in their supply. And then you build a shared board. And then at the beginning of your turn, you'll play a card, a map card or a map tile to the board, altering the board a little bit. And then you have to place one of your animals on the map tile that you placed onto the board. And the map tiles, very similar to Cascadia, has like multiple different kind of zones or regions. And so there's like grasslands, there's water, there's desert, there's mountains, maybe one more. And each tile is basically just a 2x2 grid of different mixes of these types of land. And so all you do is you just add to the land, expanding it a little bit, and then you choose one of the 7 or so different types of animals who all score differently. I think it's 6 might be, who all score differently onto the map tile that you placed. And then that type of animal might say score 2 points for every adjacent mountain space, or score 2 points for every animal in its row or column, whichever has the least, and all of these different types of scoring. And so the thing that really stuck out to me, and I only kind of started realizing this in the second and third games, is that because you're altering the landscape as you play, you can kind of also not only affect other people's, but you can piggyback on other people's stuff that they've got going on. So one great example, as I was playing this afternoon with Remy, and he had a massive area of with his goat, and goat scored 5 points for every for the region that he's in, for every 2 mountain spaces in his region. And Remy had built this huge, and he's 6 years old, right? So like it makes total sense for him to get fixated on one thing. And he had built this huge mountainous range, and he had put his goat on it. And the way the game works is once an area has an animal in it, once a region has an animal in it, you can't put an animal in it, right? But one thing you can do, and this is something that I figured out, is that you can place an animal nearby and then in a subsequent turn connect those regions. And so that's what I did. I'm like,
now you have my interest. That is now you have my interest. That's one of my favorite things from one of my favorite games ever, Lords of Vegas. So that will you've got my interest.
Cool. Yeah. So
it's a brutal dad move.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no mercy.
You're gonna learn, son.
And so I placed a mountain range nearby, and then put my goat in there. And then when I drew my next card, it had a mountain piece in it. I'm like, perfect. As long as that doesn't get messed up at my next turn, I'm going to connect these regions. And now I'm also going to score the same amount of points as he does, because we both have our goats on this massive mountain range. And so, this just like those moves, those like opportunities to be tactical and feel really smart are there in a game that is like fairly simple, like my 6-year-old played. And maybe he didn't play great, but he had a great time. And he was able to play, and he was able to pull off his little strategies and do some stuff, and he had a good time with it. And meanwhile, late 30s, early 40s Matt was able to kind of use his like brain and his experience and do some stuff and have some fun at my own level, right? So I think when a game can do that, it's pretty cool. And it's a game that lasts like at 2 players. I think it lasted like under 20 minutes. And then when I played 3 players, it was under 30 minutes, and it plays up to 5, I think. So you're probably looking at 40 minutes for a 5-player game, which is really nice for a game that has like that tactical stuff and the puzzle going on. And each of the animals can score 2 different ways too. So you just flip it to the A or B side. So there's definitely a little bit of, and I think there's even an expansion available for it that I don't have. So yeah, pretty neat little game. Have either? I guess Darren, you already mentioned you had. I don't think you've played.
No.
Chris, have you?
Yeah, Caitlin and I tried it at a convention earlier this year, and we really enjoyed it. Some of that small box all play line, like none of them are bad, but some of them hit better than others for us, and I think that was one that we enjoyed. And the interesting thing about the card play is you can overlap sections of existing cards on the board, so there's a little bit more of the interaction. And now we only played it at 2, and it was fine. We enjoyed it. We're glad we tried it. I feel like it would be better with more players. And so I would love to try it at 3 or 4 at some point.
Yeah, if you like Cascadia, this is a really nice kind of like slightly more competitive, slightly more interactive version of that. In a small, very affordable. It's the all play, $20, $25, whatever it is, game.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a great little game for sure. Definitely recommend it. Okay, let's get back to Darren.
Yes, another game.
Yeah, or a movie, whatever you prefer. Yeah, it's up to you. Movie, game, TV. Yeah.
I don't want to. And you might do an actual episode about this, but the other movie I saw recently was The Backrooms, and I don't know if we want to necessarily talk about the movie on this podcast, or you want to save it for a whole episode.
I'm happy to hear about it. To be honest, I know almost nothing about Backrooms. For some reason, I missed the whole internet craze about it.
Well,
so now
late
that it's
30s,
a big,
early 40s, so yeah, I can.
That's right. That's exactly right.
a little past our time.
Past.
Yeah.
I'll give you the back of the VHS box. The premise of the Backrooms is that a person can fall through basically a rip in the dimensions, and they end up in this place called the Backrooms. And the Backrooms is considered a liminal space. And if you want to learn what that is, enjoy the internet rabbit hole I just sent you down. Essentially, it's a space where architecture doesn't exactly make sense. It is pretty empty. Things are not in positions they should be, and just everything just does not connect correctly, right? So it started from a creepypasta on the internet, and then it became somebody made a video. They made 3D modeled the Backrooms in Blender, and they made a video set in the Backrooms, which caught on the internet, and it has its fans. And now it had a movie several weeks ago, and it was the most recent movie I had seen when you guys contacted me to be on the podcast. And I'm like, "What movie are you doing?" And you're like, "Oh, we're doing Obsession." Like, that was like my 50-50, and I went and saw the Backrooms. But yeah, so. It is a very different type of horror from Obsession, but I think what the horror is the subject matter of the horror is it's an introspective into the person who falls into the Backrooms. Like, what does the Backrooms mean, and what does it mean to the person who gets back there, right? Which this is using, like, the Obsession uses horror to evaluate things about human identity. So does the Backrooms. But the premise of the movie is a man in his 30s. He is having personal problems, which those were the most terrifying things to me in the whole movie. Because I'm like, I don't want to have those problems. Please, no.
Just his life situation.
No, don't give me life. But he owns a furniture store in the Backrooms he finds connected to his furniture store, and then the movie proceeds from there. So different people have different reactions to it. Some people find a lot of horror in that liminal space, having that empty space of indeterminate usage and purpose.
It sounds creepy. It sounds like a creepy.
It is super creepy. Yeah.
It's a place of low stimulation until it's suddenly very high stimulation. And then that's bad. But yes, he finds this place, and he explores it, and things happen from there. So if you're a fan of horror, or like I guess the popular internet term is elevated horror, it is probably worth checking out. I'll give them this. They took a big swing with the movie. They could have been really cookie cutter with it and just gotten a lousy script and just made shovelware out of the thing, and they didn't do that. So there was obviously love and attention put into it. And if you're a fan of the idea of the Backrooms, of all the content that is generated on the internet, you owe it to yourself to go see this.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm glad to hear your thoughts. I didn't say it, but I was like, please talk about this movie because I want to hear somebody else's thoughts. We went and watched it a couple weeks ago, and after seeing Obsession, I was like, it's another YouTuber getting their first big box office chance and making a ton of money with it as well. And so I was really excited to see it. We kind of briefly read about the Backrooms lore, but we didn't really like dive into it too much. And like the first half of the movie had me. I'll just say like him discovering the back rooms. There was so much tension, like just not knowing what was around every corner, not knowing how far he was going to get, if he was going to get out. Like, it was just like, it was super creepy and I was really enjoying it. The last act of the movie, it didn't really lose me, but it just wasn't what I expected to happen. And that's not a bad thing, but it was just kind of, I don't know. It just kind of, the ending fell flat.
I think it shifted to some more traditional horror movie in the last third of the movie, which is different than the first two thirds. And it wasn't done bad at all. No.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. They did a good job with it, but it was just, it seemed very out of left field. Like it felt like the movie was going one direction, and then it's like, okay, here's what's going on, here's what happens. And I was like, that felt like a really hard turn. And I'm glad I watched it. I really enjoyed it. My kids want to see it. I'll probably watch it again with them and hopefully maybe garner a little bit more of appreciation for what they did at the end. But
I think that one of the things I took away from it is that particular horror is not a it's not a scripted story style of horror, right? Like this is closer to a folklore than it is an artist creating something whole cloth, right? Like this director, these writers garnered the things that they wanted from the folklore on the internet, put it in the movie, and probably added some more of their own that we just aren't knowledgeable enough to speak about.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, it's funny because I was listening to a podcast today, and they were talking about Backrooms, and it's something that's been on my radar for sure since it came out. It sounds like something I would really personally enjoy. But the criticism they said that really kind of stuck out to me as being really interesting is that the movie is really great when it's being quote unquote Backrooms, and when it's being folklore, and when it's being just internet creepypasta. And the movie starts to falter and fail a little bit when it tries to be a movie, is the way they explained it. So I don't know if that kind of resonates with you guys having seen it. I'm just repeating what I heard, right? Sure. But I think you get that a lot, not just necessarily in horror, but like in a lot of movies, whether it's comedy or whatever, it's like when they focus on setup, and especially with comedy, I think when they focus on setup and things being funny, and it's setups and payoffs and whatever, it's great. And then in the last act of the movie, they're like, okay, the story has to go somewhere. Something has to actually happen here. And so they have to like shoehorn something in to actually just move the plot forward. And that's often where a movie's vibes, where a movie's like setup that is like fantastic and really well done, kind of like doesn't get paid off because it doesn't. It kind of started with something, and then that thing was great, but then they're like, we have to move forward, and therefore the writers come in and Hollywood comes in, and they have to like. So I wonder if Backrooms kind of fell victim to that a little bit.
Possibly. The thing is like you can twiddle your thumbs away learning about Backrooms lore and like the mechanics and the things in the back room and all that on the internet. But in the movie, to drive a story forward, like I think you need some character progression, right? Like you need a protagonist that starts at A and they end up at the end of the movie changed, right? And I think that's what happens when you get to the last act of the movie is like, hey, what's going to happen to our protagonist here? His name's Clark. Like, what happens to Clark? What happens in his story and how it relates to the Backrooms? He just can't explore forever. Like, something has to happen here.
Sure.
Cool. Right on. Yeah. So that's Backrooms. I'm excited for it. And definitely, I mean, at this point, it's probably going to wait until I don't think it's even playing in my town anymore. Because I went to see Obsession again last night. I wanted to rewatch it for this because it's been like a month since I think I saw it on like opening weekend. So it's been a month since I'd seen it, and I was expecting it to be on digital, and it was just doing so well at the box office. Hasn't left the theater
to do so well at the box office.
So more on that later, but yeah. So when I went to look up like showtimes and stuff last night, I don't remember seeing Backrooms anywhere else. So Yeah, so looking forward to seeing that when it comes on digital. Chris, what do you got for us?
So late to the party, but my wife and I have been watching The Boys the past couple of weeks.
Oh, okay. Did you start from the beginning just recently?
Yes.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yes.
You're in for a wild ride, my friend.
Oh,
Yes, you are.
We just started season 2 this weekend. And so, yes. I mean, from the jump, it's just wild. I mean, the opening scene, I was just like, what just happened? And so,
I have told, sorry to cut you off, but I have told multiple people that weren't sure about like, oh, should I watch this? Should I not? I just tell them, watch the first scene.
Yeah.
You'll know immediately.
If it's
You'll
for
know
you or
within
not,
the first 4 minutes if this is for you. If you think that it's fascinating and interesting and or hilarious, that first scene where he ends up just holding her decapitated hands.
Yep.
If you're giggling at that the way that I am right now, I mean, you'll like the show.
I'm pretty sure I had a very audible, loud reaction to that I won't repeat on air. But yeah, it's one of those things that I've wanted to watch. We just never have gotten around to it because there's so much to watch, right? Like there's not enough time in the day to watch everything. And with season 5 coming out and hearing so much about it, it kind of got me. And we had finished what we were in the middle of. And so I just asked my wife, I said, hey, do you have any interest in watching this show?
My wife would not.
And well, and what's funny is I showed her the trailer and she was like, oh yeah, I keep seeing memes about this. I want to watch it to know what it's about. And so, but there's been a few moments where she was like, I can't with this show. And I was like, is that I can't because it's too real and it's just hard to watch? Or is that I can't, I'm done. I cannot watch this anymore legitimately. And she was like, no, it's just a lot. And so, but it's been really good and really interesting. And I'm really, like I said, we watched the first episode of season 2 a couple days ago, and I'm really excited to see where season 2 goes. I think, I don't know, it's just wild. There's so many thoughts and there's so much you could talk about with it. And,
I find it's like the show. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say how real it feels. And kind of one of the things that we've talked about, and Joel and I talked about it on our podcast as well, is this is what I imagine if superheroes existed in America.
Yep.
This is what it would be. It would be
monetized,
corporate monetized machine that plays into all of the fears and the nationalism and all of the things happening in our country right now. This is it. This is how it would look. And I have no doubt about that, unfortunately.
I think that you're exactly right. I don't think you see that much power without that much money connected to it.
No, and what's funny is as a kid, you grow up seeing DC and Marvel and you're like, oh yeah, I want to see superheroes in real world. And then you become an adult and you watch this and it's like, maybe I don't want to see superheroes in the real world.
I mean, we'll probably get into it when we talk about, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, but what would I do if I had a ton of power? What aspect of me would come forward?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm not going to pretend I'm righteous here, right? I don't know. There's a genuine concern.
Yep.
Yeah, they say absolute power corrupts absolutely, right? And I don't think that's any different if we're talking about superhumans or super beings. I think it would fall in the same way. So honestly, probably it's the world is probably better for not having superheroes. To be honest, if The Boys is any example.
Yep.
Yeah, probably. So.
All right. So the last thing here for shoutouts is a movie, sort of. Have either of you guys heard about Alien Paradise?
No.
And it's not,
okay, so
it's not part of the Alien franchise. But wait,
it
is it?
It is.
I think I heard about this. This is a recut. This is a fan edit. Okay, tell the audience. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So a couple of weeks ago, coming across my Instagram, my movie and horror filled algorithm on Instagram, somebody popped up and talked about Alien Paradise. So Alien Paradise, and I don't have any of the details in front of me here, is essentially a fan edit. And what they've done is that they've taken Alien Covenant and Prometheus, which sort of both movies, I guess I'll start here. Those two movies are two of my least favorite Alien movies. And that being said, I still love them both. Okay, I'm a big fan.
That's a bold claim after watching 3 and Resurrection.
Yeah, 3 and Resurrection are probably below those. So at the bottom is probably Resurrection and then 3, which I still enjoy those to varying degrees. I'm still somewhat positive on those, but they're my least favorite for sure. But then just above that are Covenant and Prometheus, in no particular order. And again, I still
have a deja vu real bad right now. I just have to say that.
So I am a big fan of both Prometheus and Covenant, and Prometheus more so. I think it got a bad rap, and I think the horror elements and the visual elements and some of the lore we get in that movie confusing as it is really fascinating and interesting. And same goes for Covenant. And they sort of take place in the same time period in the Alien universe. And they're very connected. They take place 10 years apart, but one of them is directly related and happens after and includes some of the same characters, etc. So those movies I'm a fan of, though I do think they're a little bit flawed and they're a little bit confusing, and the lore, as interesting as it is, doesn't seem very cohesive. It doesn't connect very well. And I think if you really dig into it and you think about it a ton and you maybe, it makes more sense and you can make sense of it, but the movies don't do that enough for us to really kind of fall in love with those movies. I think that ends up being the problem. So there is a fan edit, and when I say a fan edit, it is done incredibly well. It is very professional. Okay, so it's not just like some dude. I don't know anything about this guy, but I assume he's a professional editor of some kind. But he's taken both those movies and condensed them down into a 2 hour and 40 minute, 2 hours and 30 minutes, something like that. So it's long, but it cuts out massive parts of both movies and condenses both movies into one cohesive narrative that does bounce back and forth between the two timelines, but does so in a way that you're very much able to follow, and it connects all of those things and all of the lore and all of the pieces that felt like just floating debris and puts them into something that actually looks and feels like a narrative and a movie, and that you're able to kind of buy into the lore a lot more than you were able to by watching those two movies as their separate entities. All that being said, I thought it was fantastic. I think it elevates both movies from like maybe 3s or 3.5s to like 4. I think the Alien Paradise, I went on Letterboxd, and although it doesn't exist as its own thing on Letterboxd, I just rated Covenant and Prometheus as like a 4 with a side note saying as Alien Paradise, just for my own kind of like logging purposes, right? I don't know if you guys do that yourselves, but like every time I watch a movie, I log it on Letterboxd.
I'm on Letterboxd
and give it a rating. Perfect. Yeah, we'll have to follow each other, Darren. So I highly recommend checking out Alien Paradise. There's no money involved here. Like there's no paywall. You don't have to pay for it. So I don't fully know the legalities of it. I know that I own both movies. So I didn't feel bad going to watch this like on the internet thing. But if you just search Alien Paradise, there's like a Reddit link and you click through a couple of things and then it gives you a password and you can watch the movie. I won't say too much beyond that, but I do recommend that if you like those movies but feel that they're flawed, highly, highly recommend that you track down Alien Paradise. It improves both significantly. And I think that more than anything, the pacing of it is really fascinating and really impressive because again, he jumps back and forth between the two narratives and does an incredible job of setting up a narrative that feels cohesive, and the pacing is just like really, really great. And again, it takes like this weird floating debris of lore and puts it into something that you can kind of watch in one sitting and be like, oh, that's cool. That makes sense. And it really elevates those two movies massively in my estimation.
That's cool. I still have not finished watching all of the Alien movies.
Yeah, I know. So Darren, Chris came on and we did Planet Unknown with Alien, and Chris had never seen Alien as of like 6
go
months
back
ago
and
or
watch
something
Alien
like that.
for the first time.
Yeah,
I know.
That
was back when one alien was really
so
scary.
Jealous. Yeah, I was so jealous of Chris watching it for the first time.
Yep. So we talked, and I watched 1, 2, and 3, and so we talked about. Oh, that's why I mentioned I had deja vu, because I was like, Matt and I've had this conversation before.
Yeah. So yeah, Alien Paradise, really, really cool. And again, I own both those movies already. So I had no moral qualms about going to watch it because, I paid my money. So I recommend that if you're going to go and find this on the internet, that you either own it or just go and purchase or rent those movies just to kind of contribute to the craft. I think that's important. Yeah, Alien Paradise, recommend you check it out, especially if you're a fan of those two movies, or if you're a fan of those movies but feel like they're lacking a little bit. This is really a really nice way to kind of enjoy them.
Good recommendation.
Yeah. So quick question though. If I haven't seen either of those movies, do you recommend watching them first?
That's a great question.
Or do you recommend watching Paradise first?
Oh, that's a great question. No, I feel like you should watch them individually in their entirety first, because it does cut out some stuff, but at the same time there are some moments that I noticed were missing that I was like, man, that's a cool moment that they cut out there. And then take myself out of it and think about it for a moment. It's like, okay, it makes sense pacing wise or whatever. It didn't need to be there, especially if you need to cut probably 5-ish hours of movie in half. You've got to cut some stuff. And so there's definitely some stuff in there that I was like, that I noticed was missing only because I'm so familiar with the movies. But so for that reason, I would say it's probably worth watching both Covenant and Prometheus. And I think they're both good movies. It's not like you're going in for a slog on those movies. They're both good movies, especially if you enjoy horror and you're a fan of the Alien franchise. There's lots of stuff in there that you're going to dig. But then if you want to kind of congeal those into a more concise narrative, it's definitely recommended. Okay, so the one last shout out that we're going to do here is for Valor Mountain Games. So this is where you're going to come in, Darren. So Valor Mountain Games is a new-ish publishing company run out of Cincinnati, Ohio. You can probably talk a little bit more about them in a moment here, Darren. But they've got an upcoming Kickstarter for 3 unique trick-taking games: Super Collider, the Franciscan Diamond, and the third one is called Growing Grove. So those first two, Super Collider and Franciscan Diamond, are more for experienced trick-taking fans looking for things to explore in the world of trick-taking, while Growing Groves is more of a family weight game accessible to those who enjoy playing trick-taking games like Hearts or Spades with a new twist. So each of these games retains the trick-taking as its core elements while pushing the boundaries of the genre in different directions. I reached out to Valor Mountain Games knowing that, Darren, you were going to be on the podcast. I wanted to get a little bit of an idea of what they're doing and what this Kickstarter was. So I wanted to give them a shout out, and I'll give you an opportunity maybe to talk a little bit more about these games if you're familiar. And obviously Super Collider specifically is a game you designed as part of that trio. So I want to hear a little bit coming from you here on those games.
So the ones I've gotten to actually play would be Franciscan Diamond, and that was a while ago. So if my recollection is correct, it is a trick-taking game with a deduction element in it. And that's the bit that I remember. So if that sounds enticing to you with a noir theme, I would definitely grab that one. I think it'd be a crowd pleaser for those that are the trick-taking entrenched. Would probably be into those. Yeah.
Cool. And then Super Collider, I want to hear about that for sure.
So Super Collider is the third Durdle trick-taking game. So we have our first one was Fuego, that was with Keymaster Games, and our second one is Rowdy Partners, which was with Capstone Games, which recently just got a really great call out from the Dice Tower. So thank you, Tom Vassell. It made his top 10 trick-taking games of all time.
Oh, very
which
cool.
was very, very cool to see. So this one is taking some of the elements that we liked from our first two games. So in our games, low card wins. That's just a thing that some trick-taking games do, but not a lot. We don't do trump suits in our games. So we do wild cards. So we will gently inject wild cards into the games at times. We also do counter. So counter is essentially when two values are the same, they flip over. And so we were at actually Capstone Convention, and we had a little goal like, hey, let's make a new game at Capstone Convention. And so Super Collider got its birth at Capstone Con last September, and we've been working on it ever since. And the hook of it is you are playing atoms into a Super Collider, and a Super Collider is a circular thing that meddles with science in ways that when you read the reports about it, you wonder if we should actually be doing that on this planet. But every trick, you're going to get to play two cards into the trick. But it's a snake draft. So the first player will get to play the first card and the last card. The second player will get to play the second card and the second to last card. And also there is a particle gun that's going to inject some cards off of its own deck into the trick as well, which is going to be a little bit like Jekyll&Hyde versus Scotland Yard, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. And some of the cards that you put into the trick will have modifiers, and they will point at neighboring cards and adjust the values of the neighboring cards. And so as you play, you'll get the opportunity to cause counters, flip those cards over, which will get you collisions. Collisions will get you some bonus points later in the game. And then the lowest card standing at the end of the trick is going to get you an atom. Different cards have different atoms on them. So you want to win with the highest, lowest card you can, or win with the lowest, highest card you can, however you want to say that. But yeah, you play that. You play 3 rounds of that, playing 2 cards into every trick. And at the end of the game, whoever has the most combined atoms plus atoms earned from collisions is going to be the winner. So I can't say we've seen a lot of trick-taking games where you get to play 2 cards into a trick to get 2 chances to win, or just 2 chances to mess with everybody and flip over all of their cards. So you can play in the way that you like. You can play and try to win every trick, or you can play and just mess up everybody else and lean into the collision aspect of the game.
Very cool.
That's interesting.
Yeah, looking forward to that. I'm a huge fan of trick-taking games, and any trick-taking game that can do something weird and sideways to kind of retrain my brain on how to play. I'm down. That sounds really cool. Right on. Just with Darren on the podcast, I want to make sure we give him an opportunity to plug his upcoming Kickstarter, which I've been told is going to be launching at the end of June. Okay. At least that's the plan. These things are moving targets. Having run a Kickstarter myself, so no promises, but I know the target right now is end of June. As of the time of this recording. So hopefully that is the case, and keep an eye out for Valor Mountain Games publishing a Kickstarter with 3 unique trick-taking games. Not a sponsor of the podcast, just wanted to
Not yet.
Yeah, not yet. Yeah, exactly.
You guys need to go back to this Kickstarter so they become a sponsor of the podcast.
All right, let's move on to talking about the game of the episode, or games of the episode in this case. And these 2 games are mechanically extremely similar. Very, very few differences. So we're going to kind of sort of talk about both of these at once. But essentially, there is Jekyll versus Hyde, and released in 2021. And then 2 years later, in 2023, the sequel was Jekyll&Hyde versus Scotland Yard. And these are 2-player only games. The first of the 2 being competitive, so it's a competitive 2-player trick-taking game. And then the Jekyll&Hyde versus Scotland Yard is a cooperative trick-taking game, 2 players. Designed by, I have no idea how to pronounce this, but Gonil? Janil? Is this a French person? Janil, maybe? Give it a shot, Darren. I know you're looking at the box right now. What do you think?
I'm not Canadian. I don't. We don't have the French speakers. I don't have to do this.
Is it French? I'm assuming it's French. Yeah, I don't know.
No idea.
I want to say Mandu, which is the original publisher, is a French publisher.
Okay, so it's
but
probably
I
it's
could
probably
be
Jonil.
wrong.
Yeah. Okay. Anyways, art by Vincent Dutre. Vincent Dutre.
Just kidding. Mandu is a Korean publisher.
Okay, so now we're really off to the left field. Plays 2 players in 20 to 30 minutes. I think that's true for both versions of the game. Their BGG weight is right around 2 for both games, and their BGG rating are actually almost identical as well, 7.2 and 7.3.
That's crazy.
Yeah, really interesting. But I mean, I guess the 2 games are so incredibly similar with slight twists to make them competitive or cooperative that it sort of makes sense that they would fall in the same kind of statistics on BGG. Chris, you've only played the competitive one very briefly, right? You played more the cooperative one, is that right?
Maybe I might have had equal plays.
Okay,
I've played the cooperative one more recently. I've had more plays of.
Okay. And I've only played Jekyll versus Hyde 1 game. And then I played, the versus Scotland Yard is a campaign game where you can play. There's like multiple sort of missions or chapters. I think there's 10 of them. And I played through the first 3 with my wife, including a couple of fails along the way. So we probably played for an hour and a half to 2 hours. So Darren, why don't you kind of run down the basic mechanisms of maybe start with the competitive Jekyll versus Hyde?
Yeah, so in Jekyll versus Hyde, you at 2 players, it's a relatively small deck. You have 3 suits in the game, and then you have a 4th suit, which is a wild suit, it's the potion suit, and that's where the shenanigans are going to get injected into the game. I believe the numbers are 1 through 8. And then when we get into the wild suit, they're like the middle values. So they're like your 2, 3, 4, and 5, which is super interesting because like Rowdy Partners also does their wild cards as the middle values. So we didn't know that at the time, but that's what it does. It does a neat thing with those wild cards where they're not a pure value, they're a plus value. So they're like a 3+ or a 4+. So they slot in between those values. When you play your tricks, it's a must-follow trick taker. The first suit to come out into the game becomes the lowest trump suit. The next suit to come out into the game becomes the next highest, and then by default, the third one's at the top. One player plays as in the original game. One player plays as Jekyll, and one player plays as Hyde. Mr. Hyde wants to win as many tricks as possible. Okay. Dr. Jekyll wants to have a balance between Jekyll and Hyde. So if at the end of the round it's an even number of tricks, which I think it's 5 and 5, that would be perfect.
Slight nuance in the explanation there is that Mr. Hyde doesn't necessarily want to win all the tricks, but he wants one of the 2
he wants
to win all the tricks.
Yes.
Exactly. He wants one person to win. Yeah, exactly.
That's important because you can go for all or you can shoot the moon and go for nothing. Yeah,
that's right.
And that's how far you'll advance down the track, right? So Mr. Hyde, if he gets that big disparate number, he runs far down the track, and Dr. Jekyll's just trying not to reach the end of the track, right? So he's just trying to keep things balanced out. The potion cards, when they're played, they trigger based on the other card in the trick. So there's 3 abilities in the game. There is swap cards. There is reorganize the trump suit tokens, the hierarchy there. And the third one is slipping my mind right now. There's
stealing a trick, I think.
That's it. Yeah, you steal a trick from somebody. And so you play those potion cards in and you trigger that ability, and then you'll be able to do the special shenanigans in the game, right? So using those at the right time is very important to really take advantage of the situation. And in the original game, at least, that's kind of it. Like that's the rules you have to play with. And it creates a really compelling game. And I'm going to use a game. Sorry to cut you off, Christopher. But I just want to say, game design term, because I know, Matt, you're into game design yourself. It has a strong ludo narrative for such a small box. So if you think of the story of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, right? There's always been a little bit of evil in Dr. Jekyll, but he always kept it balanced out because he was overall considered a good person. Doesn't mean he was perfect, but he was a good person. So Mr. Hyde wants to go to the extremes of everything, whereas Jekyll just wants to maintain that balance, and to achieve that with a trick-taking game is really, it's great. There's a reason it's rated as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I'm designing a trick-taking game as we speak called Fermi Paradox, and the theme is basically almost completely absent because it's a trick-taking game. If you can inject theme into a trick-taking game or into a card, into like a sort of a traditional, the roots of these trick-taking games are fairly traditional, right? If you can inject a theme that works and actually feeds the mechanics and melds with the mechanics, it's really impressive. And I know you guys did that fairly well with Rowdy Partners. I haven't played, but I watched it played over the course of a few rounds, and I thought, oh, that's really neat. And it, like the theme really comes through, which is impressive for a trick-taking game. And they've done a great job of doing that with Jekyll&Hyde as well. And that track that you talked about, basically, it's just a track that goes from left to right. And there's like a metal double-faced, really cool little piece. The one side is Dr. Jekyll's face, the other one is Mr. Hyde's face, back to back kind of thing. And I think they call it the madness track, right? And the idea is that you're moving further and further towards madness, or towards, giving in to the evil, basically, right? And so, yeah, they've done a really great job at like making this track actually feel like it's good, like things are getting worse and worse. And that's why the balance, if Dr. Jekyll manages to make it so that we each win 4 tricks each, or 5 and 3, then you only move, the difference between 5 and 3 is 2. So you only move 2 down that track. So I thought that was really fascinating, that mechanism. And you're absolutely right. Like the narrative that comes through actually does come through, which is fairly rare for a trick-taking game.
Dr. Jekyll is going to feel like I'm losing control, like this is running away from me, and Mr. Hyde is going to be, I'm out, I'm not going back.
Yeah, in my one game that I played of this, that exact thing happened, right? Like my wife was Mr. Hyde, and there was one point where she was just winning all the tricks, and I'm like, no. Like I felt like it was getting away from me, right? And I was losing control. And then ultimately, I think I ended up winning the game because in other rounds I did a lot better. But yeah, that one round for sure. Like I'm like, man, the theme is actually coming through. It's pretty cool. Go ahead, Chris.
I was just saying, one of the interesting things setup wise in the game is after everybody gets their hand, you have to swap 2 cards between the 2 of them.
Right, I'd forgotten about that.
And that is super interesting and can definitely set you up in a good way or a bad way, depending on how the hand plays out. But that was one thing that I just wanted to add as far as the mechanics go.
And you do have to send a potion. So if you have multiple potions, you have to send one over. So then each player is going to get that opportunity to pop
Guaranteed
off a special
to have
ability.
One potion.
Yeah, during the game. Getting so working on some trick takers, we definitely looked at times where opportunities to have players pass cards to one another, and it's hard to get players to understand why they want to pass cards to each other or which cards to pass to one another. So a neat thing the game does is it says send a potion. It gives you a guideline of like send a potion, and like at the beginning of the game, if you're told send a potion, like it signals to you, oh, potions are important. Like I have to give this away. It must be good.
Yeah, that's actually really smart.
I was gonna say, it's an interesting thing. I don't know if you've ever played Sail, which is another 2-player cooperative, but at the beginning of the hand, you swap card, and the first few times somebody plays is they're like, I don't have any clue what to swap. Well, your pirate abilities and where you're at in the game and what you have in your head, the game dictates a strategy when you find it, but it can be hard to uncover for sure.
Actually, can we segue real quick into the sequel, Jekyll&Hyde versus Scotland Yard, because you actually set up Scotland Yard. You set up the robot player who's coming after you. So you literally, it's like, you're not getting away clean. You're leaving clues behind. Drop these things. Scotland Yard's going to use them to chase you. Which, maybe I'm stretching for that, but that's how I saw it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I hadn't thought about it that way, but it makes a ton of sense.
Yeah. And like you mentioned, you have the game dictates you have to do a potion in the first game, and the cooperative one, every 8 you have in your hands has to go to the city deck, which is, those become way more important as you progress through the chapters too. And so it's interesting that it forces that, which can create some really interesting moments throughout. future
mechanically
chapters.
that's so if you're making a trick taking game, you probably experienced this, Matt, that like what do you do with the highest card? What do you do with the strongest card to make it interesting, right? So in this game they say, oh, the highest card, it's just really good for the bot that's coming after you. It's good for Scotland Yard. In Rowdy Partners, because we want to win with low cards, we said that, hey, the 8 is great. It's the biggest hit that you can do in the game. It's just the hardest thing in the world to pull off. But when you pull it off, it's awesome, right?
Feels amazing, yeah.
Feels amazing, yeah. So there's what do you do with the other issue that can happen in trick-taking games, and stop me if I'm talking too much design here. The other thing that can happen with trick-taking games is that when you have like a high card, you can have perfunctory tricks where it's just, and you see this in traditional trick-taking games with hearts and spades, everybody just throws their cards on the table. We already know the outcome. Throw your cards down. Sometimes you know the 2 tricks in a row outcome. Just throw your cards on the table. This game lets you get you away from that by doing this change up with the card. Like, it's one thing that Jason and I work in our trick taking games. No perfunctory tricks. They all matter. And like that throws people off because we've done demos of the game and people just throw their cards on the table. And it's like, oh wait, this matters. Like, how are you going to play this? There's tools in your toolbox that you can work with that maybe this card doesn't work exactly the way you think it does. Don't just throw things on the table.
I feel like that's one thing the modern game hobby has done with trick taking is most trick taking games coming out have that as a feature, right? Like, I'm thinking of several that we've played recently where there's not a throwaway trick because there's so many variables that go into play, whether it like Vivo from All Play, where it twists the scoring, where if you play the lowest card, you score its face value, right? And there are times where you can sneak a high card in. Yeah. And so I feel like that's kind of a common thread mechanically with a lot of modern trick-taking games that make them a little deeper of an experience, for lack of a better word on my tongue. Yeah. But
I mean, you can also, to your point, I think Nikosu Dice, which is very well regarded as well, a lot of trick takers, is a trick taker kind of game, right?
It's
like,
my favorite.
Absolutely. Such
you spend the entire round jockeying for like, what's the final thing I'm going to hold on to because that becomes my bid, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that way, that final trick you throw out really matters, right?
Oh yeah, like the beginning of Nikosu Dice feels like it's not perfunctory, but like there's less weight in the beginning of the hand, and as you get closer and closer to that moving target of your bid, is like it just the heat goes up, the tension goes up, and that's such a beautiful such a beautiful design.
So let me throw a question to both of you guys. So this is the 2 games we're talking about here are no bid trick takers, right?
Right.
You do pass cards, but there's no bid. Do you prefer a bid or a no bid trick taking game?
That's interesting. I think generally speaking, if I looked at, the whole gamut of all the trick taking games that I've played or whatever, I think the bid probably slightly outweighs the non-bid.
Okay.
Only because it makes bad hands relevant.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of just gives you that balance of like, you play, especially games where, and more, these games are shorter and have just, in this case, 2 rounds to each game, in the Jekyll&Hyde games. But in a lot of modern trick taking games, it's 3 rounds and that's it. And so if you get 2 bad hands in a row, just the way that things come out, and there's no bidding involved, that can potentially sour your experience with that game. So that's why I think for the most part, the balance of throwing bidding in there, and it's more about evaluating your hand and playing it out perfectly than it is about, just potentially adding a little bit extra layer of luck and like, oh, I got the best hand, so I'm going to win the most points or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, and you can tell me this is a cop-out if you want to, I don't care. Honestly, I don't care one way or the other. I think it depends on the mechanics wrapped up in how the game plays out, right? I mentioned Vivo. I don't know if either of you have played that from All Play. But it does an interesting thing where it's a must-follow game, but it's not necessarily a follow the suit. It's a follow the harmony card that's flipped up each trick. And that can be a solo, which means everybody has to play the lead suit. It can be a duet, which means there has to be 2 colors played, trio, quartet. And the way the scoring works is whoever has the highest card of the players that played on harmony takes their card back, flips it face down. It's worth 2 points at the end of the hand. If you played the lowest card, you keep it face up in front of you, and it's worth its face value at the end of the hand. So there's no bidding in it, but there are moments in that the scoring just becomes so interesting and pivotal. And if someone's not paying attention, and they just, like what you mentioned, a throwaway trick where they're just like, oh, this one doesn't matter, I'm just going to play whatever. Well, then somebody can sneak an 8 in as the lowest card in the trick, and they're scoring 8 points, which is a huge swing. And because that one's 2 rounds as well. So that one works really well without the bidding. Whereas you mentioned Nikosu dice. Matt and I are both huge fans of that game. I don't think that game works if your final die doesn't become your bid, right? And so I don't care one way or the other as long as what you're presented with mechanically works with or without.
The thing, I have a couple thoughts on bidding. So a lot of very traditional trick takers like spades or hearts or even euchre, if you don't have bidding, you don't have a game. Really, like,
right?
There's not much game there. Because what are you doing? Like, why are you playing tricks, right? It's giving you guidance of like winning or not winning tricks, right? Like trying to throw them away. But also like in traditional card games, and you'll see this in families all the time, where it's like, well, I don't play spades because my family won't teach me, or they don't have the patience to teach me, because all of that is front loaded in that game. Like, you have to make a bid. What are you bidding? Here's 8 cards of gibberish. Make a decision. Why don't you know the right number to bid? What's wrong with you? This is why you're mama's least favorite daughter. Like, that's,
No.
Yeah. It's true that I guess bidding adds a touch of complexity, but I think, again, Chris is probably exactly right. It depends on the game, depends on the mechanics, of course. But generally speaking, if I had to zoom out to all the trick-taking games, I would slightly prefer, if I had to choose, if a new game was coming out or whatever and I knew nothing about it, I don't know, like, if I'm expressing this properly, but it just kind of like creates a situation where bad hands don't kill you, right?
Right.
So that's the only kind of reason I say that. Otherwise, it just boils down to the design and so this, just to get back to Jekyll&Hyde, we haven't talked about the mechanics of the Hyde, Jekyll&Hyde versus Scotland Yard. So this one works almost in the exact same way. There's a track, and on this track you have a pawn that represents Jekyll&Hyde, and then there's another pawn that represents Scotland Yard. And in the beginning, the Scotland Yard pawn isn't even on the board for the first chapter. But then as you get into, there they are, if you're watching the video.
Great visual aid there.
And there's almost an identical track with the same 3 tokens that represent the 3 different suits. The deck composition, I believe, is identical, 1 to 8, with the middle cards being wild potions. And this game, though, is cooperative, and the way that it works is you deal 12 cards to you and your partner, and then you each choose 4 cards of your 12 and shuffle those 8 cards together, and that becomes the city deck, which represents Scotland Yard chasing you. And essentially you just go in clockwise order, and then when it goes to the city, you just flip the top card. And so though me and my partner, we have to follow suit, Scotland Yard's kind of just a wild card, throwing a card out there that can really really mess things up. But that's part of the fun. And then so the way that the chapters work is that in the very first chapter, you have to play 2 rounds, and you start at each chapter tells you where your pawn will start and where the Scotland Yard pawn will start. And in the first chapter, you start halfway up, and you just have to land on exactly the last space.
Yeah.
And the way that this one works is that whoever won the least amount of tricks between the 2 players, that's how far your pawn will move. And so we had to move, I think, 5 spaces in chapter 1. Had to move exactly.
That's right.
You have to move exactly 5 spaces, which means between the 2 rounds, whoever won the least amount of tricks has to win 2 and 3 or 4 and 1, and that, or a combination of 5.
Yeah.
And then I forget how the second chapter works, but in the third chapter, that's when Scotland Yard actually gets involved. And then the way this one works is that, and I'll stop describing how each of the chapters works, but I just want to give the listeners an idea of the progression, right? But in the third chapter, every trick that we have won as players, we look through them, and any 8s advances you 1 extra space. So if you won an 8, so if you cut or, played a trump and took an 8 from Scotland Yard, because Scotland Yard will have all the 8s, right? Or they'll be buried, because I think there's still 4 cards that don't get dealt.
Yeah.
So if you manage to win a couple of 8s plus, I won 2 tricks and my opponent won, not my opponent, but my partner won, whatever amount of tricks, then we would move up the pawn for how many tricks that I won, plus an extra 1 or 2 for however many 8s that we won. And then the way that this chapter works is that you can go beyond, once you get to the very end, any extra spaces you would move, instead Scotland Yard moves. And so, yes, you want to make it to the end, but you don't want Scotland Yard to catch you. So you sort of have to keep it more or less, accurate. You don't want to go too far over. So hopefully that made sense to people. But basically, the idea is that it gets more and more difficult. And I think there's even a component that the 1s, 2s, and 3s have a Scotland. So, Chris, you've played more of this one. I'll let you kind of take over a little bit on how that works.
Yeah, so when Scotland Yard comes on the board in the third chapter, the 1s, 2s, and 3s become important as well because they've got a little Scotland Yard helmet on them. And what that does is each of the 2 rounds you play in the game, one of you is the active player. And so whoever the active player is in the first round, the other player is active in the second round. If the active player has caught any 1s, 2s, or 3s in the tricks that they've caught, for each one they have, Scotland Yard moves closer towards you.
So you don't want that person to win.
That is a bad thing. Yeah, that's a bad thing. So if I'm Mr. Hyde and I'm the active player, I want to make sure Dr. Jekyll catches all the 1s, 2s, and 3s, or the city deck catches all the 1s, 2s, or 3s. And, you mentioned the potions and the abilities. One of them is one of us can take a trick from the city deck or from the last one, the city one. And that can be really important as to who you give it to, because you don't want to give it to the active player if it's all 1s, 2s, and 3s. And so, that's how Scotland Yard moves. That's the main way they're going to move, unless you overshoot the end of the track.
Have you guys, I've played up until chapter 3 and no further than that.
Yeah, that's as far as I've gotten
about
to.
the same, yeah.
Okay, fair enough. So we have no idea how much harder it gets.
Knowledge exhaustion.
I imagine.
I mean, it's hard enough in the beginning.
That's
so
right. Yeah, we failed chapter 2 twice before I think we got it, and then we failed chapter 3 once before we got it. And so it gives you a little bit of an idea. And we're only, I assume they get more and more difficult. We're only at the 3rd degree of difficulty out of 10, right? So I assume it would get more and more difficult, and you'd spend maybe a lot more time trying to win the chapters as you get further on into the game.
Yeah, but I think it's probably one of those things that the more you play it, the more you uncover some strategy points.
Yes.
But there's always going to be an element, like you mentioned, of chaos, because you don't know what the city deck's going to flip up. And that's a really interesting wild card twist that can make or break the game for you, which is one of those things that's a push and pull for me, because I really enjoy the way that game plays. But that element of having no control over that city deck can be very frustrating at times. So, and one interesting caveat I'll just add on to what Matt mentioned about how Jekyll&Hyde moves is it's whoever caught the fewest tricks. But if you both catch the same amount of tricks, you caught the fewest amount, so you'll move that many as well. So it's not, if you tie, you're not messing yourself over and not moving.
Right. Yeah.
Which can be really important.
Yes, absolutely. You both won the least amount of tricks, right? So you just move that much.
Because that may have happened last night when I taught my 12-year-old and we won. So
nice.
We caught the same amount of tricks in the second round and managed to land on a home space. So
cool. Yeah, I definitely this is one where a lot of times, Chris, you'll know this, you having a podcast now, a lot of times you're playing a game just to get enough of it to be able to talk about it and review it and discuss it. This is one that, after playing for, a couple hours with my wife last night, I think, next time her and I are sitting down for a game night, we're probably going to want to try and get further into these chapters.
Absolutely.
Which I can't say for every game. And, I'm not sure we'll play the competitive one again. But
interesting.
I definitely want to get the cooperative one back to the table with my wife, because I feel like we were just starting to get our stride and figure out some of the stuff. And like with any of these types of games, if you play with the same person, you start to get tendencies, right? You start to get a bit of a meta, especially when it comes to like passing cards or what cards you're going to give to Scotland Yard. You start to learn how to do these things. And Sail was no different when we played Sail from All Play. We
made Sail's hard.
If the campaign is good, it'll let you get comfortable, and then it'll pull the rug out from under you, and then you have to relearn everything.
Absolutely, yeah.
I know when we went to chapter 3 and he introduced the 1s, 2s, and 3s moving Scotland Yard, we immediately went, "Oh my God, how do we do this?" And then we'll figure that out, or at least figure it out to an extent before again it introduces something else and makes it more difficult. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, but I think what it does with those first 4 chapters is brilliant. Much like on a much larger scale, Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion slowly ramped you into this massive campaign game. I think something like that, where it's like, here's the core principle. You're trying to get from where you start to the end of the track. You've got 2 rounds. Here's how the tricks work. And then the next chapter is like, okay, we're going to move you back. You've got a little bit further to go. And then the 8s matter. And then the next chapter, okay, here's the ultimate goal. You've got to not get caught by Scotland Yard. These cards matter. And so I'm excited to see what chapter 4 does and how it adds just another layer or 2 on top of that. But I think when even a simple game like this, like, it's not complicated. They could have just said, here's the whole kit and caboodle, go have fun and try not to lose. But I like that they slowly introduce the concept of how it works and adding some extra layers as you play through the first 4 chapters. I think it's great.
Very cool. I will say too that it being a 2-player trick-taking game, the competitive one, I enjoyed my single play of it, but it didn't feel as much like a trick-taking game. And I guess it's because only two people are playing cards. And the difference, and it's funny because I'm just realizing this now as we're discussing it, but just having that third robot player, the city deck flipping a card over, feels way more like a trick-taking game, just because 2 people are following, right?
There's also
I don't know what it is about
there's no partnership in a 2-player trick-taking game. You are your own partner, whereas in the sequel, you have a partner.
Yeah, that's true. Because a lot of trick-taking games, and I grew up playing a ton of euchre, you have a partner. So maybe that's why I felt that trick-taking vibe from the cooperative one versus the 1v1.
I was in a game shop and somebody asked me for team games where you play as a team. And I was like, oh, okay, well, you can play like Unmatched. You can play as a team in Unmatched. And
Rowdy Partners.
Rowdy Partners. I'm like, also like 60% of the games on the trick-taking shelf are team-based.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm curious, Matt, then, because we played a lot of the Fox in the Forest several years ago. Is that not one that you've ever played either? Because it is a 2-player competitive
I've never played it.
Game.
I've never played it. Okay. I do own it, but I haven't played it yet. Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's another one that, and it was the first hobby trick-taking game I found. And Darren, you don't know this about me. Matt and I have a mutual affection for trick-taking games, and it sounds like you do as well. I grew up playing a ton of spades and pitch and a dominoes trick-taking game. And so I love them. And when I got into the hobby and then I found out that there was a trick-taking game in the hobby with a theme and cool artwork and no bidding involved, which was huge for my wife because she didn't grow up playing trick-taking games, and bidding just was not something she could comprehend. And so I picked up Fox in the Forest, and I used that to teach her and help her learn how to play trick-taking games. But Matt, it's another one I'd bring up because it is strictly 2 players. And I was just curious if you'd ever tried it and what your thoughts were on it, because I see what you're saying, but I also feel like I enjoy both of those a little bit more than it sounds like you probably do. So I was just kind of curious. That being said, I do think Jekyll versus Hyde I like better than the Fox in the Forest because I feel like it adds a little bit more tension in the game.
Yeah, I probably will at some point bring that game out, probably just not with my wife, which is
Sure.
my primary 2-player games person, right?
Yeah.
So I might play that with my son or with other friends if we end up on 2 players. But my wife, we all have different gaming personalities, and she doesn't love
Mhm.
take that stuff. And so in a 2-player trick taking game, that's pretty much all it is, right? Is just like you're trying to outdo the other person and whatnot. And with the amount of games that I play and the amount of trick taking games that I play, I just have an advantage there that's not as much fun for her and I to play.
Yep.
But the cooperative one we really enjoyed, and we'll probably come out again. Yeah. So that's the main
It's interesting.
reason.
There's also a. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say it's not because I preferred necessarily the versus Scotland Yard, the co-op one. It's just because it makes more sense for my wife and I. And that's my primary 2-player partner.
With trick-taking games, it is possible to play the game poorly. And you get pretty immediate feedback that you're playing the game poorly. Whereas other games, many other Euro games particularly, you don't necessarily know that you're playing poorly. You're just playing. You're doing stuff and you're having fun while you're doing stuff.
You're having a good time.
In trick taking, the scoreboard is staring at you most of the time. So it can be rough for new players, because there's a good trick taking game has a big skill curve too. So
that's what's interesting though for us is like I mentioned, she didn't grow up playing trick taking games. She was very intimidated by them, and we kind of had the same like uneven strategy dynamic there when I first started teaching her. But now we've played a bunch of them, and she learned it, and she figures it out. The interesting thing is she actually liked the competitive Jekyll versus Hyde better than the cooperative one. And when I bought the cooperative one and we opened it up the first time we played it, she's like, "Oh, I thought this was the other one." I was like, "Really? I thought you liked this one better because we're working together." And she's like, "No, I think I like the other one better." And we played it last week at a game cafe, and she was like, "Yeah, I definitely like this one better." I was like, "Well, that's interesting." I think I prefer the cooperative one better because I like the puzzle of it. But it's interesting that tastes kind of flip and change as you play and more in the hobby.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to playing the competitive one again, because the idea of like one person trying to have an equal amount of tricks versus the other person trying to have that gap between the amount of tricks won. I'm excited to noodle with that idea a little bit more and play in that sandbox. This is the first time I've seen that in a game, and I want to play with that some more. But I think unless you guys have any final thoughts, I think we've exhausted the the chat about these games. Go ahead, Chris.
I was going to add one more thing on the competitive version. I think what makes that one shine though is it is 2 completely different games depending on which side you're on.
Yeah.
Right.
And I've played primarily as Mr. Hyde, but then one of my kids at that game cafe was like, "Can we switch?" And they absolutely obliterated me, because playing as Dr. Jekyll, I think, is even harder. And it's not necessarily the way I try to approach a trick-taking game. I like to either catch everything or I like to catch nothing. Like that's kind of what I enjoy about a trick-taking game, is going nil and trying not to catch anything every time. And so being able to do that as Mr. Hyde, that's the main strategy. But then as Dr. Jekyll, you're trying to like push tricks away from you and catch tricks, and it's just a very different strategy and approach. And so I feel like what makes it shine is it feels like 2 different games depending on which side you're on.
Yeah, and I feel like you're probably right that the skill level required to do well as Dr. Jekyll, the person who's trying to keep the tricks even, it's probably a little bit tougher of a task.
Yeah.
And I specifically gave my wife, I said, you can play as Mr. Hyde, because you can just like win them all or win nothing. That's your goal. So that's easy to just like digest, right? And my wife's a really intelligent woman, but she just has not played nearly as many trick-taking games as I have. And so I just took the one with the higher skill ceiling required. And that felt fairly well. Like it was a really tight, close game, and I ended up winning. But it was like there was definitely that one round where she ran away with it, and I was like, "Oh no!" And which was a fun moment, right? If a game can create a moment like that, it's achieving something for sure.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to our scores. And I guess I don't know if we want to do a different score for each of these. I guess I'll start, and then you guys kind of have a moment to think about it here. But I think I have the same score for both of these at this point, and I think it's going to be a 7.5. It's a game that I think there's definitely some room for it to grow in my estimation if I get it to the table some more. I have not played very many games, or very few games actually, because I'm just not a cooperative player or a campaign. This is just not my preferences. Where the games get harder and harder and more difficult, right? I've played a little bit of now I'm blanking on it, The Crew. As I'm looking over my trick taking section of my shelves here, I've played a little bit of The Crew, and I've played a little bit of the Lord of the Rings trick taking games, but probably no more than I've played this game. Probably a couple hours of each at most. But I'm really interested to actually go down this path and see it get harder and harder. There's almost a video gamey thing to it, right? Where it's like you get further and further into the levels, and it gets harder and harder, and that's part of the the attractiveness of like getting better, right? And that sort of thing. So 7.5 with I think a little bit of room to grow. I think it could easily grow if I played a little bit more.
Nice.
Who wants to go next?
Go ahead, dude.
Which one? Are we rating them collectively or individually?
As you prefer.
As I prefer.
I more or less have the same score, so I just give it a 7.5.
I would give the original one probably a good 7. I feel that it's engaging. It has some neat stuff going on there. I don't see that I would go back to it over and over and over again with the same player, though. I'd probably set myself playing it with different players. I would give the sequel, even though I haven't played it as much. I would actually give it probably a whole another point, because there is a campaign in there, and that hook, that'll get me. That'll get me in there to come back and get those 10 games in. And I saw that for the Fellowship of the Ring game. I saw it for sale. There's incentive in the box to get X amount of plays into the game. So yeah, that's I think I'd give them a 7 and an 8 respectively. Both very good. Not a knock towards either. Just thinking about practicalities of how often I would grab it off the shelf.
Yeah.
Well, apparently Darren and I need to be friends, because that's exactly what I was thinking. So
there you go.
I think the competitive one, like you said, it offers a lot of fun and a lot of strategy. And I think, Matt, I would love to hear your thoughts after you play it more and try both sides a few times, because I think that's what, if it didn't have that difference in strategy feel, I think it would probably be a little lower, honestly. I think that elevates it.
Right.
But then, like you mentioned, I want to keep coming back to the cooperative one. My wife wished I had bought the competitive one, but I don't know that I want to, because I would rather pull out the cooperative one, because I think it has that hook that Darren mentioned that makes you want to keep coming back to it to see how it progresses in difficulty. And then after you play through all of them, you pick your favorite and play that a ton of times if you want to,
Yeah. Awesome. Cool. So yeah, we're all fans of, I think, both of these games, and I think I'm probably close to you guys too, in that the cooperative one I probably slightly prefer, and I think that one has more room to grow in my estimation than the competitive one. All right, we're going a little bit long on this, but I think we've had some good discussions, and I'm really excited to talk about Obsession.
Yes.
So Obsession was released in 2026, is written and directed and edited by Curry Barker. I feel like he got his hands on a One Wish Willow and wished that he would be able to
absolutely
make this incredible movie. and
he also
and it's coming for him. He's gonna have to pay the piper at some point.
He was also a featured voice extra in the movie.
That's right.
So
that's right.
Yeah.
Well, I guess
customer
we'll
service
get to
rep.
it. Yeah. It was under $1 million production budget. I just looked it up, which
$750,000,
which means that is a penny film in Hollywood.
Absolutely.
That's about as low as you can go and get a big release in theaters.
Yeah. So it stars Michael Johnston, Indy Navarrete, and Cooper Tomlinson. And after breaking the mysterious One Wish Willow to win his crush's heart, a hopeless romantic finds himself getting exactly what he asked for, but soon discovers that some desires come at a dark, sinister price. So Curry Barker, so just a little bit of background, Curry Barker and Cooper Tomlinson. Cooper Tomlinson plays his buddy Ian in the movie. They left film school to start making comedy shorts on YouTube and TikTok. Which now I'm blanking on the name of it, but I think it's called like That's a Bad Idea or something like that.
I think that's right. Yeah. It's something weird and goofy.
Yeah. Eventually started making short films. They made these comedy shorts for about 8 years. And then started making short films. And I think Curry Barker is primarily the creative force behind all of this, with kind of Cooper Tomlinson being an actor and also a producer and kind of part of the duo. But I think, if I'm not mistaken, Curry Barker is a little bit more of the creative force behind the duo. And they did do one low budget indie movie called Milk and Cereal. It's just over an hour long, and they did it on an $800 budget.
Cereal spelled as in serial killer, not like the cereal that you eat with milk, which is really funny.
Okay, so I haven't seen it. I know nothing about it, but I'm super excited to actually watch it. Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
I've seen it spelled out though, and so I'm assuming there's maybe a pun buried in there somehow.
Yeah.
It's one that I want to see for sure.
Yeah. So yeah, they made the short film, and then they made a horror short called The Chair, which caught the attention of Tea Shop Productions. Barker secured funding and wrote and directed Obsession on a strict 20-day, $750,000 budget, and famously edited the entire movie himself in his bedroom. So as part of being able to try to keep this as a low budget film. And then it was purchased by Focus Features for a little over $14 million, I think. And then I'm looking at the box office, and so this part of it is really, really interesting as well. So right now, their total, where is it now? Did I lose it? Why can't I find it?
I know it was over 330 last time I saw it.
30,
weekly. Yeah, 300. Yeah, 330 was the last number I saw. And I'm looking at like the weekends here. And so this part of it is really, really interesting. So on its first weekend, it made $17 million. So from $750,000 budget, made $17 million in its first weekend. Okay. And I know like this is primarily a board game podcast, so people probably don't follow box office and all that closely. But generally speaking, a movie will make the most money it'll make in its first weekend. Yep. And then they kind of call it a multiplier for the rest of its run, will make about that much money. Okay. So if it makes $17 million in its first weekend, it'll make $17 million in the rest of its runtime, and that $34 million will be is that the right number? Yeah, that $34 million will be. I'm like, is my mathing? It's getting late. Yep. So that is typical, right? So a $17 million on a less than $1 million budget is incredible. But in its second weekend, and usually you'll see like, if you see a like 20% drop, right, from your first weekend to your second weekend, that's considered great. It's considered a really good second weekend. Okay. In its second weekend, it went plus 39%. It made more money. It made $23 million in its second weekend. And then in its third weekend, it made plus 14%. So it made $31 million on the following weekend. So the percentage is not showing here for some reason, but it went from 17 in the first weekend, 23 in the second weekend, 31 in the third weekend. So it kept getting more money, whereas usually there's a 20, 30, 40% drop off each weekend. Okay. The last time that a movie did this, that wasn't a like Christmas, because often what happens at Christmas time is that a movie will come out and then because of holidays or whatever, people will like go out to the movies because everybody's off. And then a movie movies will see sometimes make more money in their second and third weekends just because of the holiday. Right. But the last time a movie was able to get more money the second and third weekend that was not a Christmas release was in 1984, and it was E.T. the Extraterrestrial.
That's insane.
Okay.
42 years ago.
Yeah. In its fourth weekend, it's made 27. So 17, 23, 31, 27. July 5th weekend made another 25. June 2nd weekend made another 19. And this weekend that just passed, it made, or I guess that's this current weekend, $13 million. So it made more money in every single weekend after its first weekend. Up until this last weekend, which is absolutely bonkers.
Incredible box office run in the modern era, right? Considering how short timelines are in theaters anymore.
Yeah. Which, I mean, you even said it in the intro, Matt. You had asked if we had seen it more than once, and you figured it would be on digital by the time we recorded this. That's why we pushed it out a little bit, so we'd be able to watch it a second time.
Exactly.
Nope, it's still in theaters because it won't quit making money.
It just keeps making money. It's unbelievable. And I'm like, I'm happy. I'm ecstatic for it.
Yeah, it's great.
You know, I mean, we talked about this a little bit in previous episodes, but like the idea that like the only movies that ever make money, and this is starting to change a little bit, but the only movies that ever made money were IP movies and franchises and Marvel and superheroes and Fast and Furious movies, right? And it's just so heartening to see an original indie movie destroy the box office like this, right?
From all appearances, a nobody, right? Like, obviously he'd done YouTube stuff and a couple of shorts, but like nobody really knew who he was in the grand scope of things unless you had followed him on YouTube and TikTok and were a fan.
And
no
star draw, no stars.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, they're stars now.
They're huge now.
Especially Indy Navarrete. Navarrete?
Yeah.
It's Navarrete or Navarrete?
It's Navarrete.
Navarrete, okay.
I loved seeing her in this role, and I was super excited for her to have what should be a breakout for her, because she was on Superman and Lois as recurring, one of the main recurring characters, kind of a side character, but really important in the storyline. And I really thought she was great in that show. And when I realized that was her in Obsession, I was like, this is great, because I don't know if you're a super nerd like me and followed the DC CW Arrowverse shows, but most of those actors and actresses haven't broken out and done much else outside of those shows, and she's one that now she has, and she's gonna go.
Oh, has she ever?
Sure.
Yeah, like surely she has some awards coming her way.
Yeah, although I did see somewhere, I saw posted on social media that people are petitioning for her to be a best supporting actress, and I think that's garbage, because she should be in the best actress category.
Okay,
for sure.
so let's actually talk about the movie, and we'll make our points
Let's
why
do
that is.
Yes,
because I think we have strong points to make on this.
Sorry, I'll put the cart before the horse.
For sure. Yeah. So I'm just a huge fan of this movie. I think there's lots to talk about here. But just as my general thoughts, and maybe we'll say this out front for everybody, like spoilers for Obsession. If you're one of the three people, who hasn't seen Obsession, maybe pause this.
Turn off the podcast and go watch it right now.
Go watch it. You will be disappointed. I mean, even if you're not a horror movie fan, and I think there's definitely some horror elements. There's a couple of scenes that are pretty gnarly. But for the most part, this movie is not a gory, gross out movie. It's just unsettling. I think is probably what it is more than anything in terms of the horror elements. More than it's like jump scares or disgusting or gory. It's more just unsettling, and the vibes are what get to you. And the ideas, when you really start thinking about the ideas and what happens in this movie, that's what kind of sticks with you. And I remember coming out of that first viewing kind of vibrating, thinking like this was something special, and it stayed with me. And on second viewing, I think it was even better, because Darren, as you alluded to, as you get more information throughout the film of what's actually going on, the tone of the movie sort of changes. Not the way that it's presented, but the way that you take the information and who you're rooting for, or how you perceive the characters changes completely, which I think is fascinating and so well done.
There are movies that have big reveals at their end which then recontextualize the whole movie, right? So, Usual Suspects, right? Spoiler alert.
Yep.
Something big happens at the end, recontextualizes the whole thing. This doesn't have a single big reveal, but as you learn more about the characters in the movie, you see that, oh, this is not what we thought it was.
Yeah.
It's sort of incremental.
Breadcrumbs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's great.
interesting that you use the word breadcrumbs because there's definitely some Hansel and Gretel.
Yeah, a little bit.
That was not intentional, but yes,
well done,
yes,
Chris.
yes.
Well
That
done.
is-
Our subconscious.
How do we?
Yeah.
that monologue, holy cow, that
Yeah.
was. It's funny you mentioned you came out vibrating because you knew it was something special. I walked out of the theater and I looked at my wife and I said, "What the hell did we just watch? Oh my gosh!" Not in a bad way though, right? Just in a like it just wrecked my mind and was so unsettling. And I came out of the theater like, I need to go bathe. Like, I just need to go sit in the bath for an hour and like watch a child's cartoon to just like cleanse my mind palette.
For me, it wasn't
was-
quite as intense, but I had a similar reaction to watching Hereditary in theaters.
Mhm.
And when I
Yeah.
got done with Hereditary, like I felt like I'm unsettled at the moment, right?
Yeah.
And this had that same feeling. How much of the movie are we spoiling? Like the whole thing?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay, whole
we're
thing.
spoiling the whole thing. Yeah.
Whole thing. Okay.
Pulling no
So
punches here.
to Indy Navarrette's credit, there's moments in the movie where I feel she broke the uncanny valley with the way that she was acting, where I was like,
Yeah.
oh,
Okay.
this thing only appears human. Like there's
Yeah.
something very wrong here. And there's no special effects making her like that. She's just like
Yeah,
that.
I mean, I've seen you see pictures circulating social media with her frown. Like people have speculated, well, they enhanced that.
No.
Absolutely not. Like I've seen pictures of her in
Yeah,
real
yeah.
life, and she makes that face, and it's
Yeah.
crazy.
Literally, I'm getting chills right now just thinking about that
Yeah.
frown
Okay.
and her face. Yeah, she's incredible, and I do hope she does get some award.
So I've got
recognition for her
a
role.
question for you guys because I had one earlier. I've got another one. So
okay.
in our Jekyll and Hyde, because that's the theme of the episode, right? Is this movie a possession movie, or is this a duality of one person, like Jekyll person?
Yeah, so I'm going to add to that question because it's something that I intentionally wrote down here that I wanted to ask you guys. So similar frame here, and I'll answer your question and then I'll kind of reframe it and ask my own. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I think Curry Barker does a really good job at not over explaining the logistics.
Absolutely.
And I think that's really important. And I think that a lesser storyteller would Bear would get the gang together and they would go looking for the company that made the One Wish Willow, and they would find an old lady who had a story about it, and they would pull out a book and they would say, well, you'll have to go find and there would be like a detecting thing that happened.
mystery. Yeah.
Mystery.
That's
and-
not real life, really, right? Like you don't get the answers in one pat evening, right?
That's right.
You call
That's
or
right.
any
you
answers,
call customer
right?
service and you get run around, and that's it. Like
That's exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
He nailed it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So Curry Barker does a great job at not over explaining things, letting you sort of decide yourself, right? And for a while, I did think like possession because of the way that I guess if we can distinguish the two, let's call possessed Nikki or like the messed up Nikki, freaky Nikki, of course.
Yeah.
And then Nikki being like the original person, right? And so freaky Nikki, is that a possession? Is it some sort of demon? Is it just what's the husk of what's left after you remove Nikki's soul from the body? Like, what are the logistics? What do you guys think? I'm not sure. At first,
Do
possession
you want
is
me to
what.
give my cheat answer?
Sure.
Sure, let's,
Well, what did you?
Because
let's hear the-
did you?
Curry Barker has answered that question.
I don't.
Okay.
He's wrong.
Did you?
I don't
Did
care.
you have an opinion?
He's wrong.
He's wrong.
So I'm guessing you knew that when you asked.
I didn't.
He
I
has
didn't.
said emphatically that it is not a possession issue.
I love that.
That there is it's not a possession. There's no demon. There's no evil entity. So it would be more of like a duality of a character where the wish just takes over her in a non-possession way. I don't know. That's weird. The logistics are odd.
Yeah.
what I
So
think is
how do you-
interesting,
how
though,
do
is
you-
the online discourse. A lot of people have said that they think it's Bear's cat that dies in the opening sequence of the movie.
I definitely think
because-
it's not that.
I don't think so.
I am
Well,
emphatically
so-
against that.
I agree with you, but I think what's interesting is some of the reasoning that I've seen is because if you look at some of Freaky Nikki's behavior and how possessive she gets and how she brings him dead treats where she fixes his lunch,
Sure.
like all of those things are very cat-like behavior. So he has said, no, that is not accurate, but I think it's an interesting train of
Sure.
thought to follow the people that have given good evidence and reasoning. So,
I can buy that as a reading, but I don't agree with that.
I don't agree with that
I
either.
don't like it either.
I will say we get a tip very early, after almost immediately after Bear makes his wish. Nikki comes back and she's interested in him, and then she breaks for a second.
Yeah.
She's like, "What is
Yeah.
happening right now?" And then she goes back. So you
And
know
that
that
happens
like
a few more times.
It does.
Yeah.
yeah. So we know early on that there's two things going on there, right?
yeah.
There's two entities in there, whether it's an outsider entity or whether it's herself or not.
Yeah.
But let's just talk about like Freaky Nikki herself, right? Like one of the things I noticed is that like Freaky Nikki is indeed obsessed. Bear asks for love, but she's not really. It's not love that she's giving.
Yeah.
It's an obsession, right?
Yeah.
Because true love, like you're going to want that person to grow and thrive and become their own person, right? And
Yes.
she doesn't even
You
want
want
him to
what's
go
best for them.
right. She doesn't even
Yeah.
want him to go to work, right?
Yeah.
Like to go
Yeah.
make a paycheck. So the way the wish was fulfilled, something happened, and the way it's interpreted is not a love that is happening there, in my opinion.
Right.
Yeah.
And you even get a hint of that when Bear at one point says, do you like me? And she goes, of course I love you. And he says, no. Do you like me?
Mm-hmm.
Do you like who I am? Do you like
Right.
me as a person is kind of what he's asking. Because clearly she loves him, in whatever variation of the word you want to, put in there as what you just said, Darren. But does she like him? And I think the one scene that tells me that no, she doesn't really like him is when they hard smash cut to them having sex. And she's clearly not physically enjoying it.
Awful scene.
Yeah, it was hard to watch for sure. And even harder to watch the second time around when you know everything. Because at that point, it's just straight up full out rape,
Yeah, absolutely.
And
the creepiest thing of that is like you can see her face and she's not enjoying it, but there's still like screams of pleasure, but her mouth isn't moving. And I was just like,
it's
oh
so
my gosh,
unsettling.
like I can't, like,
yeah.
It's crazy.
So one of the things that, so maybe we can back up and talk a little bit more about the plot. So essentially, he has a crush on Nikki, which
I would say he has an obsession, to be frank, personally.
yeah, maybe. I mean, yeah,
Just the way the opening monologue, the way he tries to express his feelings about her,
yeah,
and the way he makes the wish, it feels like he also has like, it's not just a crush on her.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah,
anyway.
you could interpret it as more than a crush. Yeah,
An infatuation, perhaps,
hard to argue.
or
with
at
that.
least the infatuation of the idea of
yes.
of having this woman.
Yeah, and more kudos to Navarrette's performance and to Curry's writing and directing, because in the like 3 very brief scenes that we get with Nikki, I'm in love with her too. Like, as much as one can be with a person on screen or whatever.
I mean, she's fun,
like,
she's sociable, she's kind. Like you can tell that she's kind.
She's beautiful.
Yeah.
She's quirky. She's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she's just like,
you wanted more of Nikki.
Yeah.
And you didn't get it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. But yeah, so he, goes to this oddities shop and buys a one wish willow on a whim. And then kind of like in a moment of like, and at that point, I don't think he's taking it seriously, because if he actually believed, it would fully come true, I like to believe that his wording would probably be different, right?
Yeah.
And that he would really think it through and say it in a way that would maybe avoid what we end up getting in this movie.
It was not thoughtfully done. No.
Yeah, he just says like, "I wish she would love me more than," and he swears there, more than anyone in the effing world or something like that, or effing love me more than. And I think that effing, that extra word, putting emphasis, pushes it even further potentially, right? If you want to talk about, we're not going to get into linguistics and all that, but like I think that's part of it. But yeah, he says he wishes she would love him more than anyone in the effing world, or something along those lines. And then we get this one of the iconic shots of the movie, but basically like we get a cut to a wide shot of the car with the house in the background, and there's a silhouette of her standing there, which we already saw her go into the house, and all of a sudden she's standing there.
Yeah.
And that's the first kind of like ominous, shot of the movie that kind of like starts to unsettle things, and then we get this like, she basically goes from, and I really like you mentioned already, Darren, but the fact that like she snaps out of it a few times, and she's real Nikki for a moment and goes like, what the heck, where am I, what just happened? And then immediately snaps back to freaky Nikki, and then she settles things, and it's okay, I was just drunk, I was just high, I was just this or that or whatever. But I like that it kind of almost like it took a little bit of time to fully take. And then as time goes on, it takes more and it takes more and it takes more, to the point where it becomes a full out obsession, and she becomes freaky Nikki and can't even stand to have him go to work, and can't stand to have him leave the bed, and all this stuff. And then obviously things escalate. Go ahead.
I was going to say, so we're obviously going to talk about Nikki a whole lot, and there's still more to say about that there, because that's a super neat supernatural thing. But as three grown men in their late 30s, early 40s, let's talk about Bear for a moment, because we were all young men once, right? And so at the beginning of the movie, Bear opens and he's having this very sincere opening of his heart to Nikki, which then we find out is not Nikki at all. It's Sarah, right? And he's just practicing, and Ian's watching him. So he has this moment of sincerity, and then
it wasn't even Sarah, it was the waitress.
You're right, it was a waitress.
Diner, yeah.
Okay, so somebody else entirely. And she says, I think that was great. But so he has this absolute moment of sincerity, and he absolutely gets smacked down by his friend Ian. He's like, you can't do that. He's like, you absolutely can't be sincere. I feel that's probably a generational thing, like sincerity. Yeah. Very scared of sincerity, right? Because if you're sincere, you run the risk of getting
a terrible friend.
Which is another topic of are these people even friends?
You could argue that no.
But then but I can understand where he's coming from, of being a young man and trying to get the right words out, and you just can't. You just can't get them out past your teeth, right? And so in that moment, I really felt for him before I knew anything else about the guy.
Yeah.
But then you learn that he's, I don't want to use too harsh of language here, but selfish and awful. I'll just say that. He's not a great guy.
Yeah, I think there's like tons of gray area to mine there and to talk about, I think, with Bear. And my intention here is not to push back on that sentiment, because I agree wholeheartedly with you, Chris. But I will play a little bit of devil's advocate, because, and so I'll read something here from that I saw as a post from Creepy Catalog, it's called, and it's a great follow if you're into horror films. It's called Creepy Catalog. You can follow them on Instagram and Facebook, and they post a lot of horror movie stuff. They'll post behind the scenes stuff and really interesting things, but they also have a lot of really great insights and takes on horror movies. And so I'll read this from the post. Men inflict horror, women experience horror. Filmmaker Goldie Jones says Obsession told the wrong character story. Can you imagine what Obsession would have felt like if the whole film had been shown through Nikki's eyes as she was trapped inside her own body, robbed of her autonomy? Is it really a feminist horror if it centers on the man who is inflicting horror on the woman he claims to love? People argue about Bear's full culpability precisely because we experience the story from his perspective. We watch him justify all of it because he's a nice guy, and he never understands why being with him this way is so horrifying for her. But rewrite the film. Get out of the car with Nikki. Walk up to her door with her. then spend the rest of the movie trapped inside her body, watching someone she thought was her friend use her and refuse to help even when she begs. Bear is experiencing the consequences of his actions. Nikki is experiencing the horror. That's exactly why we need more women's voices in horror, to understand the difference between inflicting it and living it. So when I read that, I thought that was fascinating. In fact, I saw the filmmaker Goldie Jones had actually posted a video of her explaining this, and then after the fact, I saw this post with the text, and I thought, oh, this is like really interesting perspective. And at one point, I even put out a post on Facebook. There's like a reviewers and media and board games, and I was hoping to find a female voice to join on the podcast, so to give the female perspective. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to find somebody, but all that being said, I think I don't disagree at all with what you said, Chris, or any of what Goldie Jones said there in that post. What I will say is I'm not 100% sure that that's a better movie or makes the point better. I do believe that we need more women filmmakers telling horror stories from their perspective. I don't disagree with that at all. I'm not sure if this movie would be better for it. Maybe there's a different version of this movie that would be also great. But I think the subtlety of it, and how we've talked about already, how like the villainy of Bear is slowly explained to us or shown to us over the course of the movie, right?
And it gets worse and worse.
Yeah, I think I don't know exactly at what point in the movie it happens, because I'd have to see it more than once. But at some point you realize that, hey, Bear's not our hero here.
Yeah. He's not a
nice guy, right? And he's a protagonist, but he's not necessarily somebody that we're cheering for here. Especially, I think honestly, for me, it was as soon as she was at the car and I realized, oh, she's not there. Like something took over.
Yeah.
This is very wrong now.
Yeah.
I think it took longer for me to get there, but I think what's interesting, and you said you wanted a woman's voice, so I remember reading that post as well, and I read it to my wife, and she pretty much disagreed with most of the sentiment. Not the ending, where definitely we need more women's voices in the world in general, right?
Yeah.
Like not just in horror, not just in filmmaking. Like we need more women's voices everywhere. But her main pushback was it's not meant to be a feminist horror movie. So like Goldie's whole argument, you could question and push back on that. According to her, right? That was her response to it, was she didn't think it was meant to be a feminist horror movie. And it's speaking to and attacking a problem in our culture from a man's perspective, not from the female perspective. And it wasn't intended to be read like that. So I thought that was interesting that you were reading that, and I remembered our conversation about it. So I wanted to share. That was kind of her pushback on that.
Yeah, I want to add a note just from the perspective of like a horror aficionado, because I watch a lot of horror movies every year. 50 or 60, something like that.
Same.
So horror in its own way was always a little ahead of the curve when it comes to like feminist icons or like advocates for that. And it's through the archetype of the final girl, right?
The female victim.
The final girl. She's the one who survives. She's the one that's left. And the movie turns when she grabs some power back from this attacker and fights back and either takes him out forever or gets away, right? It's the Laurie Strode, right, of that. So like that has been represented in different ways, but this story would not be better necessarily if we saw the internal battle, the psychic battle between the two halves of Nikki and one overcoming the other, right? I think we would lose out on a lot of the societal commentary that we were able to get through the movie that we were given.
Yeah.
If the message is like is given, like if the theme and the message is given to you with as subtle as a sledgehammer, I don't think it lands as well. I think if something sits with you and you slowly think about it and then realize that it's a somewhat feminist film or has a feminist approach, I think that hits a little bit better. The problem is that not like this movie made $330 million at the box office, and I would wager that like between 75 and 90% of those people won't think about it any deeper than that. It'll just be like, oh, I had a great time at the theater, and there was some scary stuff and some scary elements, and maybe for a moment they're like, oh, he was actually a bad guy and whatever, but they probably don't think about it from Nikki's perspective very much. I think that was very subtle, and I think that only the people who really take time to think about it and dissect it to the level that we are, would kind of realize how feminist it actually is. It's just super, super subtle about it. And I had a similar reaction in a very different movie. I mean, it's still a horror movie, but in The Substance.
Yeah.
And, The Substance is way less subtle about its message.
No. My comment on The Substance, I made a post about it when I watched that comment. My comment on The Substance is like, what if the subtext was just text? Like,
there's zero subtext.
It is in your face.
Yeah, except that the movie has a lot to say about the male gaze, right? And but the movie is constantly I'm just trying to think of the best way to say this. Like, I catch myself gazing, right?
Right.
And I think that's a big part of what the movie's trying to do, is that, like, I'm sitting there watching Margaret Qualley nude, and obviously I'm a straight man, and I'm like, this is nice to look at. And then
she's
immediately
beautiful.
Feel like a bag of dirt because I'm I'm ogling this person, right? And I think the movie was very effective for that reason. Like, and I think that Obsession does that in a similar way, in a much more subtle way, but it's like introduces Bear as the protagonist, makes him look like a softie and a romantic and whatever. And now I'm on Bear's side because I want Bear to get what he wants,
to get the girl,
right? And then right up until that moment where she's like, do you like, she's like leaning against the car and she's like, do you like me? Do you have feelings for me? And the coward, I'm like, yes, just say yes, damn it. Like, tell her, and he just can't bring himself to do it. And then slowly but surely over the course of the movie, I feel like a bag of dirt because I was rooting for what turns out to be this, like, whatever, this like dirt bag. It was a
relatable moment because a lot of us have been there when we were young men, right? And we're like, oh, I remember how that felt, right? Like, you know, I should have said and I didn't, and I couldn't get it out. And then, like, the movie goes on from there. So,
which I think is again, you go back to Curry Barker and his brilliance. I think that was a great way to set the story up, is it made you want to cheer for the guy and be in his corner. And then slowly you realize you were wrong. And, going back to that.
And honestly, I think that's what people like Goldie Jones are saying, and what a lot of feminists are saying. And I for a large part agree with what they're saying, is that it's almost too subtle and most people won't get it. Most men, especially most toxic men, won't get it, right?
No,
and you can see that on social media with the subtlety.
Yeah, and I'll agree with that. I think you see that on social media because every day I see at least one or two posts of men claiming Bear's the victim, and thankfully most people are arguing and telling them how wrong they are in the comments. Because if you come out of that movie seeing him as the victim, I have questions for you and who you are as a person. Now, I'll say me personally, I didn't put it together. I don't tend to analyze movies too much as I watch them the first time. I want to watch them. I want to be engrossed in the story, and I don't want to think about it too much. It wasn't until we got home and I was looking up some, interviews and stuff, and I saw a commentary video from a YouTuber, and the title was just like "Bear is the villain?" ? And I read that out loud to my wife, and she was like, oh, that's interesting. And it just kind of clicked. I was like, yes, it is.
It seems so obvious, right? Once you
think about it, But I think there's so many people that aren't getting the message as it is. I think, and this isn't, I don't know. I don't think you have a chance to get the message across if you flip the perspective.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
I think you lose your audience, like a huge portion of people that may see the movie, because those types of people that already aren't getting the message are not going to watch a movie from her perspective. Those of us that want to, I think that would have been too hard to watch.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And like, if you're someone that has been through any abuse trauma of any kind, mental, emotional, sexual, whatever, I don't think you could stomach that
I think
movie.
it becomes
Like, I could not have taken my wife to see
I
that
think it becomes
movie.
just a
And
straight
so,
torture movie at that point.
and so I think that is one big problem, is I think you lose so much audience on both sides of the equation. Those of us that support the feminist viewpoint of it still, but I think you lose it if you flip the perspective there.
Yep. As I said, I watched this again last night, and I went in specifically wanting to pay very close attention to Bear and the choices that he makes,
Okay.
and how often, it's like he does a villainous thing, right? Or like an awful thing. And although, like, if you want to look at it in a black and white, with a black and white perspective of like, was he right or was he wrong? He was wrong, right? There's no,
Sure.
for me, but the world is not like that. And people are not like that. People don't think in black and whites. And that's just not how the world actually is, right? And so it's a lot more gray than we think. And, there's plenty of moments in the movie, and the probably the one time where I was like, how could he possibly continue, right? And then I think, like, what would you do at this point? You have a supernatural thing that you can't explain to anybody. Nobody will believe you, right? He did try to bring her to the hospital. She refused, and the way, I'm not sure how it works, in whatever state they are, or wherever they are in the world. But like, a lot of times, if a person doesn't want medical attention, how can you give them medical attention, right?
You can't. Yeah.
And so that's a whole gray area. So like, what would you do? And then I thought about it some more, and like, I don't know how many times in my life I've said, well, if I was in that scenario, I would have done this, and then you actually think about it a little bit deeper and put yourself in those shoes, and nobody is as brave as they think they are.
Yeah, for sure.
Including myself, And so, like the point where I was like, oh, I don't know, is like when the cat eating the cat sandwich thing. Right. And he's rehearsing on the way back of like in the mirror in the car, like, Mickey, you can't do that. Like, I am very upset.
Yeah.
He's rehearsing. And like, and he gets in there, and that's when he finds her, soiled and a mess and whatever. So like, obviously in that moment, you probably don't belittle the person and get all mad at them. Now they're like vulnerable and a mess, and you like you have to like take care of them for a moment first, right? And then, so she's in the shower, and then they have the argument and weird thing, and then they smash cut to the party. So like, and I think that's the brilliance of the script, of like not fully showing us what happened there. You just have to sort of justify and imagine that somehow the conversation, he didn't get to have the conversation, and she was a mess, and he was worried about her and whatever. And then they end up at the party. And then from then on, it's just madness. He's in full survival mode and doesn't make a whole lot of choices at all. Other than like the point, and this is another kind of crossroads in the movie where like you say, so she's in bed and you hear real Nikki speak through freaky Nikki in her sleep and say like, kill me.
It was the most haunting scene of the movie.
Sure, it's like so unsettling. And she says, kill me. And then he says, what's so bad about being with me? And that sounds like a villainous sentence. And I agree, it is. But then she responds with, I haven't been with you even once. Right. And so.
And if you haven't caught it yet, that is like crystal clear that she has no control over what's happening.
And at that point, Bear absolutely knows that all his suspicions should be confirmed by now. Right. So he should no longer be treating Nikki as the woman he knew. She's not there.
Yes. And that is the one moment in the movie where I'm like, there's no turning back here. Bear cannot continue. Cannot just like ignore this. And he doesn't, right? And other than the fact that he walks out of the house in that moment, right?
Which, can we talk about that for a second?
Sure.
he knows that she watches him when he sleeps, right?
Right.
Like he had to consider for a moment that like this was not going to work. Like him leaving the house was going to be a problem. But he was just like,
Yes.
I'm out. Like he's like, I just had to
Yes.
go.
Yeah, but Sarah also said, if you don't meet me, I'm coming to the house.
That's
so
true,
either
yeah.
way, it was going
It's a bad
to.
Yeah,
situation.
so that's kind of my point. Is like in that moment, it's really easy to say like Bear should have just killed her, right? But now think about it again. I would have killed her. I would have grabbed the kitchen knife and I would have just killed her. Would you have? Like that act of taking a knife or a gun and murdering somebody, even if they're evil, that is a thing that a human being cannot just do.
It doesn't come
It's
naturally.
It's not like making a
No.
sandwich
Right.
or like a bad
Analogy.
It's an act that is like incredibly difficult to do, right? And the
Yes.
other option to end this that he knows at this point is to kill himself. Again, an act that is probably impossible for 99.9% of us to actually do, even if we want to, right?
And we see that later
Yeah.
on, even.
Yeah. So while I agree that Bear should have made different choices and done different things, if you actually think about it in reality, all of his options were impossible.
Sure.
Right. And from that moment, he's like, okay, I've got to go meet Sarah. And maybe in his head, he's like, then I've got to like take Nikki out, or I've got to take myself out, or I've got to do something. Maybe Bear at that moment actually had the right intentions. We don't know.
Yep.
Right. But from that point on, he's in full survival mode, right? He gets to the car and then Sarah gets brutally murdered. And then he's just like in shock and trying to deal with the Sarah situation. And then we get the final scene at the house, where he actually tries to potentially do something about it and end things and do the right thing.
Well,
fails, but he tries.
he has the moment where he tries to get Ian to help him, and because
oh yeah,
there's
that's
no,
maybe
and
my
he is
favorite.
a
Maybe my
friggin'
favorite scene of the
jerk.
movie.
but because the fact of the matter is that this group is they're not honest friends with each other, right? Like there's not that level
No,
of
not at
trust there
all.
that we think there is. It seems like they
Yeah.
all just work at the same place, and that's how they all
Yeah.
are associating with one another. And we also know that the whole group's about to split up, right? Like
Yeah.
I believe
Yeah.
Nikki talks about getting out, doing something else.
She gave in her 2 weeks notice.
She gave her 2 weeks notice. Sarah finally got accepted to art school.
Mhm.
Sad.
Ian, I don't know what he's doing, but he's probably going to go do something else. So I will say that them working in the music store, very Empire Records. And like the fact there's like a
Yeah.
subcurrent of like, oh, they all work in this musical instrument store and the things are about to change for them. And like there's like a soft
Yeah.
movie there where this never happens.
Yeah,
This
absolutely.
wish doesn't happen,
Yeah.
and then you just have this whole other movie that's much closer to Empire Records.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
So just to wrap up my thought
Yeah,
about
Yeah.
like Bear, this is a huge monologue for me, but like the whole like Bear's autonomy and Bear being a villain and all that, 100% agree. Bear's the villain, did the wrong thing. If we look at it in a black and white situation, like you look at this and Bear was the bad one and Nikki was 100% the victim. Bear was never the victim. But it's just not that simple. And if you
Mhm.
really take the time to like watch through the movie, it's just like the script and the plotting is set up in such a way that like every time he has to make a decision and do the right thing, it is incredibly difficult and almost impossible to actually do it.
Yeah.
And we've seen him multiple times be a coward. Like he's a coward from the beginning. So you put a coward in that situation and they're just going to melt and do the wrong thing. And
Yeah.
I'm not defending Bear. He is the villain. I just want to make that clear. I just want to say that it's not a full black and white situation.
Sure.
And I think that serves I think it's just the brilliance of the script. It's the brilliance of how it's paced out and how every time he has an opportunity or wants to do the right thing, something happens or the decision he has to make is impossible. And so he's just slow to get to it. And eventually he does. It escalates in such a way that he gets to a point where he puts a gun in his mouth, and then he's just too much of a coward to do it. And then he takes the pills, and then he's too much of a coward to actually do it, and tries to make himself vomit. And then obviously doesn't quite get to the point where he manages. But like, yeah, that's kind of the point I wanted to make. Is just it's very gray, and all the points where he has to make it's just impossible.
I think what's interesting, Joel and I talked about the movie on a podcast a few episodes ago as well. And it was the day after I saw it. And I did a lot of watching interviews and commentaries and reviews and thoughts that really kind of helped shape some of my thoughts of the movie, because I still was having a hard time processing it because it was just such an unsettling movie. I was just like, I didn't want to keep thinking about it immediately. But you know, going back to the idea that in the beginning you're presented with this nice guy idea that is Bear, and him being a nice guy and trying to do the right thing. And Joel and I were talking about it, we're kind of go back and forth, and I said, you know, I think he tried to be a nice guy, and Joel's whole mentality was, I don't think he ever was a nice guy. And we kind of ended the discussion with the thought of, if he truly was a nice guy, he never would have made the wish that he made. So I don't disagree with you. There's a lot of gray area. And at some point, there's no going back, and he doesn't have much choice. He's in survival mode. But if you go back to the idea of if this wasn't just an infatuation or obsession, if he really cared about her and he was truly interested in a relationship with her, that's not the wish you make. So it's just kind of an interesting idea that Joel and I talked about, to kind of piggyback off of what you
I fully subscribe to that if you go into it buying that Bear believed in the one wish willow from the start. If he believed that making that wish would actually work, right?
Sure.
But he just did it on a whim. Like he just said it like willy-nilly. And then broke the thing, right? It's not like an established world where like supernatural things exist and he knows it. Right?
Yeah.
I don't think he believed that it would actually work.
Was
he
it
just did it because whatever.
Was it that much different for him than throwing a coin in a wishing well?
Yeah,
exactly.
But the interesting thing is the immediate montage when things are going well, like you don't really see him being that interested in her. Right. And I think that's where some of the problematic behavior becomes, right? Like you've been in a new relationship, right? Darren, you said it, like we're all late 30s, early 40s. We've done the new relationship thing probably more than once in the past. And there's that moment where you're like cuddling on the couch watching a movie and she looks at you and you're like, oh, this is nice. Like you want to enjoy that and savor that. What does he do? He looks at her and he turns her face back to the movie.
Yeah.
Right? Like, what person who actually has thought through wanting to love someone in a relationship is like, you're weird, don't look at me right now. Right? Like
she wants the Netflix and chill, and he just wants the Netflix.
Right. Yeah. And so I think, you know, that's another moment. Like, and then as things start to heat up, you don't see him caring for her. You see him parenting her. Right. Yeah. Like that conversation he had in the mirror in the car you mentioned. I'm very disappointed in you. You can't, that's not how you talk to your romantic partner. That's how you talk to your child.
Mm-hmm.
And so
somebody that you're in charge of or in control of, which is exactly.
And so that's where my thought process of, I think it was more of an infatuation obsession. I don't think he ever really thought about what it meant to be in a romantic relationship with her. He just knew she made him feel good about himself, and he wanted her to keep making him feel good about himself.
I don't think he wanted to know any more about her as a person.
No.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. So we're obviously going along here. Maybe we just do a little bit of like our favorite moments, because there's so many like fun and crazy things that happen. We can just shout out a few of those each, and then wrap things up. You mentioned it briefly. Maybe one of my favorite moments of the movies where Bear goes to Ian's place with the new One Wish Willow, and he's trying to convince him to make a wish to unmake Bear's wish.
Yeah,
and is trying to convince him, and that whole conversation is very. Now I'm forgetting the name. Do either of you remember the name of their like TikTok or YouTube page? What their like their comedy sketch thing is.
You said it earlier. What was it?
I don't know.
This is something, an idea, something.
Yeah, this is a bad idea, I think.
It does feel like very much like a college humor sketch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that dynamic feels like it felt a lot like, because I've seen a lot of their sketches. I wouldn't call myself a fan because I didn't even know the name of their thing, but I had seen probably a dozen or more of their skits just on Instagram and or Facebook. And I thought they were really funny, and I've seen both their faces a ton before this movie. And so, yeah, that scene felt a little bit like one of their sketches. And then when he grabs it and says, he just nonchalantly says, he's like basically like just saying, F you, I'm not doing your stupid thing and I don't believe you.
Yeah.
I wish for $1 billion and breaks it. And then money starts to like fall and rain inside the apartment.
Facial expression in that moment.
Yeah.
It was great.
Yeah. And what I'm leading to here is I think Curry Barker's genius comes through here because we switch from hilarious to devastating. And it works in that moment because I laughed out loud in the theater. Even last night, again, I laughed out loud. I thought it was hilarious, all the money falling. And then we like slowly zoom into Bear's devastation on his face and is like, oh, brutal. Yeah, that was one of my favorite moments of the movie, followed immediately by Ian knocking on the door. Guys, this is crazy. I have like $1 billion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that moment so much. And then gets a bullet in the head. Yeah, immediately.
Yeah. Oof.
Any of your favorite moments you want to shout out?
Go ahead.
Anytime they have to interact with other people about the One Wish Willow is just like a break for some comedy in the movie, right? So when he calls
in the store,
calls the customer service line, like, that's hilarious. Like
the guy's just like, hello?
Yeah. Like the guy can't believe he actually got a phone call, and like he's like, "You can do that?" No, you can't do that.
No.
And then he,
I was just guessing your intentions.
Just guessing, yeah. And then when he talks to the shopkeeper, and he's like, "Well, you do it." He's like, "I already used my wish." What did he wish for? Like, it's still
that whole scene though, when he goes in there and the guy's like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
and you think it's going to be one of those like you think it's going to be one of those things where it didn't really exist and it was like
it wasn't actually there.
It wasn't actually
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, that was. I'm pretty sure I laughed out loud at that one. That was great.
Yeah, but he's like, I already used my wish. I'm like, he used this wish and he's working at this store. What did he wish for?
What did you wish for?
Like,
a lollipop?
Like, yeah, he's like, oh, I really wish I had a cheeseburger right now. I'm kind of hungry, and it's just like onto the table.
Cheeseburger. Yeah.
I mean, we talked about all the horrifying things so much. So like, it was just
I did want to mention
nice break.
That guy, the guy that worked at the store, I saw a clip. And I mean, anybody who's remotely involved with this movie is being like pushed out to the forefront because of how crazy the reception has been and how popular it's been. But I saw a clip of this guy talking about how he was sending in his audition tape and on a whim, for whatever reason, decided, and I didn't realize this until I watched it again last night, but he decided that, and this is what he says in the clip. He says, I decided I was going to send it in channeling the dude from The Big Lebowski.
Nice. That's good.
And then when I watched and I didn't realize it, then I watched it again last night, and it's so obvious and clear because he says, you can't just come in here with that energy, man. Like you keep saying that over. You're coming in here and you're all like negative, and you can't just come in here, with that energy, man. And he keeps calling him man like that. And I just like the whole time I was laughing so much. It's so funny. And then he's like spitballing on what he could do at the end as you like kind of fade to the next scene, and you can kind of just sort of hear him in the background saying like, or, you could just kill yourself, you could just like, bite the bullet. And yeah, that guy was hilarious.
Yeah, that's good. Not to give a cheap answer here, but one of my favorite moments is the very end. And part of what caused me to walk out of the movie theater and just be like, what in the world has happened? But I think what makes it, there's two things that make it one of my favorite moments, other than the fact that it's just devastating and haunting and super depressing. But I like that she didn't kill herself, because that was really obvious. So obvious, and this is the second reason I like it, is it was originally scripted that she did kill herself.
Yeah, it was supposed to be a Romeo and Juliet ending.
Yeah.
They had talked about it some, and Curry was just like, hey, let's just shoot one where you don't. And we're just going to linger on you as it hits, and you freak out and you panic. And they even said in one of the interviews, like, you can see where they missed a spot on the wall of set dressing blood from previous takes where she did. So I just like all of that background information makes the ending even more powerful to me.
Yeah.
And the fact that they said we did one take thinking it wouldn't stick, and they saw it and said, nope, that's it.
That's it.
And so
yeah.
kind of all of that together, like not the devastating, depressing awfulness of it, but just the background and the filmmaking aspect and some of the like funny Easter egg there. If you look at the specific spot on the wall in the wrong shot, you're going to see fake blood from a previous take. And so it's good.
Yeah, apparently it was Curry Barker's dad who finally convinced him to go with that ending. And the reason was it's worse.
It is worse.
Like, it's more devastating to wake up, for real Nikki to wake up after Freaky Nikki goes away because Bear died. Nikki wakes up and sees the scene and then has to, like, imagine being absent for most of that, right? And then you wake up and then your friend who's been like awful to you, for the last couple of weeks or whatever is dead. And then you go into the next room. Don't forget, Sarah's there in the nude with her face exploded.
Ian's dead on the floor with a bullet.
Ian's dead on the floor with a bullet hole in his face.
Yep.
And you're wearing Sarah's hair. Right. Like that was something I didn't catch. And I saw them talk about in one of the videos I watched, like she scalped her to put her hair on because she thought that's what Bear wanted.
Oh my God.
We don't know.
Even
We don't
on
know
two
if those...
viewings, I did not catch that.
Yeah. And we don't know if those are prison tattoos that she put on herself.
Yeah. She drew Sarah's tattoos on herself too.
Oh, right. That is
it's
so messed up.
Wild.
So she's been through all the horror. Her body is scarred now forever because she also hit herself in the face a lot. And she's not talking her way out of any of the criminal charges.
That's the next thing is like, what's next for Nikki?
Yeah.
She's going,
interesting.
She's either going to prison for the rest of her life or she's going to a mental institution. Like the trauma, it's over for her.
I've seen some people be like, she just needs to run to Ian's and grab the money. And I'm like, but if you think about it, if you die, your wish goes away. Is Ian's money still there? Right? Like,
oh yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, his money's probably gone. You're right.
Does it depend on the wish how it plays out? I don't know, but
yeah, cool. All right, I think we've dissected. I mean, I could go on, but it's been 3 hours.
Yep.
I really appreciate you guys hanging out for this long. But
man, it's something about when you and I get together. I don't know. Maybe we're the problem.
Maybe. Darren, I'm
hopefully
sorry.
Joel's not listening to this.
Hopefully you're not in a time zone that's later than mine.
I mean, it's Eastern.
Because it's 11:40.
Yeah.
Okay, 11:40 for me as well. Yeah. I think you're a little bit earlier, right, Chris? You're 10:40 over there.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, Central.
Not so bad for you.
No.
All right. Well, thanks again. Oh, one last thing. And I've been doing this on the last handful. Yeah. So 2 last things. I know you probably have heard this, but Darren, are you familiar with the Wilhelm scream?
Yes, I am.
You are? Okay.
Yeah.
So I won't go through it again. Do we think there was a Wilhelm scream in Obsession? Did Curry Barker edited this himself? So he would have been the one to put it in.
I don't think there.
I feel like he probably would have.
I feel like maybe he did.
Who would have?
I've already looked up the answer, so I'm not going to spoil it, but I'll let you guys each take a guess.
I don't know. It's tricky because I could see him wanting to pay homage and throw it in there because it's, classic. But I could also see him wanting to break away from it at the same time.
Oh, if it was in there, maybe it was from a prop inside the novelty store. So I'll say yes.
Ooh.
The only place that I thought it might have been in there was when he made the customer service phone call. And then the customer service guy's like, do you want to talk to her? And then all of a sudden, I don't know, conferences her in, for lack of a better term. And then we hear her do a bunch of screaming. No, according to Google, the Wilhelm scream was not an obsession.
Okay.
Gotcha.
All right, so let's do our rankings really quickly, and we'll wrap this up. Thanks for sticking it out with us, guys. Chris, you want to go first?
Sure. I'm gonna say 4.5.
4.5 out of 5. Nice, very strong. Darren?
I think that's a very good rating. Having only seen it once, I think I would give it a 4.5 as well.
Nice. Yeah, I had it as a 4 in my first watch, and then after watching it last night, bumped it up to a 4.5 as well. So we
That's surprising. The way you've talked about it, I figured you had it higher than a 4.
Yeah, that was just like a snap rating after, sitting in the chair in the movie theater. I usually do it right then and there as a first kind of reaction. And then I often will adjust it, even days later without seeing it again, with just thinking about it more. And then on a second or third watch, it adjusts from there. But 4.5, I think this is easily going to be on my top 10 of the year. As it sits right now, it's in conversation for number 1. Bone Temple is up there. 28 years.
I was going to say, because you said it was going to be hard to unseat as your number 1 at one point. That's why I figured you'd have it at 4 or 5 or higher.
It's in the conversation as number 1 of the year. And honestly, even after this conversation, I'm tempted to bump it up to 5. But I'm definitely going to watch it again before I do anything with my rating. But either way, this is a fantastic film. I think it's incredible. I think that just the fact that we can talk about all of this stuff of like Bear's intentions and who's the villain and who's the victim, and just the fact that we can have those conversations about a film, especially a horror film, I think is a success, in general.
Absolutely. And we could have spent the whole 3 hours just talking about Obsession,
probably.
So.
Yeah. And I really, really hope that Hollywood takes the right lessons from this and doesn't decide to do an Obsession cinematic universe, or something stupid like that, and instead maybe try to spend their money in the right ways and invest in creative people and invest in young talent and let them have some autonomy and not just like do the typical Hollywood. Because I think if this was a studio film from the beginning, we would probably have a different movie. We probably would have.
Yeah, absolutely.
This scene that I alluded to a while ago, where it turns into a mystery scene. And they get their buddies together and they go down the rabbit hole of like, what's a one-wish willow? And you have to track down the actual original tree and burn it down. Whatever. I think it would have ended up being that movie. So I think we need to give these brilliant filmmakers the autonomy to make the movie that they want to make, because that's when you end up with true gems.
Yeah.
And
I think, with the success of this and Backrooms, I think the future seems bright, taking new, younger creators and giving them a chance.
Yeah, if Hollywood takes the right lessons from this, you're absolutely right.
Hopefully.
And I hope they do. I hope this is like like we got in the 90s, we got the like Tarantino burst onto the scene with Pulp Fiction and Reservoir Dogs. And then for the next 10 years, we got how many clones of those types of movies. And we got to see a lot of and there's some garbage stuff in there, but some really cool stuff too, right? We got a whole genre almost of movies that came out of that, and the Robert Rodriguez's and that kind of thing, right? And then in the 2000s we got the Marvel, and then like the offshoot of that was, I think, mostly not great. All the superhero stuff and the franchises and the part 2s and the part 3s and so hopefully this is another fork in the road, and we see Hollywood take the right lessons from Obsession and Backrooms and some of these other great horror movies that we've seen in the last couple of years. Sure.
And I agree with you about not having a One Wish Willow universe, but I think a series of shorts, like 20, 30 minutes of like wishes gone wrong, could be really cool.
Again,
but that's all I'll say about it. If done well.
Yeah. And if Curry Barker is behind it, right? And if we allow these young talented geniuses to do it, as opposed to just like Netflix being like, no, to sell more toys, we have to do it this way.
It could
you know,
easily
yeah.
be a gimmick of a horror anthology that's not very good.
Absolutely.
it
That's
could
why I
go-
said if
could go
done
either way.
right. I don't know that I even want a second film, but a series of shorts could be really interesting if they do it right.
Yeah.
Just showing, because there's so many Wish Gone Wrongs that you could do well.
Yeah, it could be super fun. But again, I would love to see Curry Barker be at the head of that. You know,
Absolutely.
I think that's the right way to do it. But who knows if you know, Focus Features, does Focus Features own One Wish Willow? Does they own Obsession, the
I
rights
don't
to
know.
that, or does Curry? I'm not sure. But anyways, we got to wrap this up. I really appreciate you guys sticking around this long. Listeners, if you're listening this long, this far out, I really appreciate you as well. If you guys are enjoying the podcast, take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe, whatever platform you're listening on. You could follow me on Instagram at Dice Camera Action Pod. And if you have any feedbacks or suggestions, email me at dicecameraactionpod@gmail.com. Thanks again, Darren. Super appreciate you coming on. Chris, as usual, thank you.
Thank you.
Take care, folks.